Online TV ng bagong milenyo. Millennial Online TV. Ang katropa mo sa pagbabalita.
I-type sa inyong mga cellphone, Facebook o YouTube man ang Millennial Online TV. Dahil nasa Millennial Online TV na ang online realista ng bagong milenyo, si Randall Villanos.
Sana'y di magmahal kung dati kung araw nang di pang bata sa piling ni nanay. Nais kong mauli ang awit ninang mahal. You are the one who makes me happy when everything else turns to gray. Walk on through the rain. Walk on through the rain. Though your dreams be tossed and low. Walk on with hope in your heart.
At haharanahin kayo ni Randall ng iba't ibang awitin para maibsan ang inyong inip at kalungkutan kahit nasaan man kayo.
Hanggang sa tumanda. Come on. Hanggang matanda na, sana'y di tayo magbago.
At pwede rin kayong makiduit kay Randall tuwing Huwebes ng hapon. Ano pa hinihintay nyo mga kamilenyo? Tawag na!
Araw-araw ikaw ang gusto kong
Responsable ka ng gun owner? At mahaba ba ang iyong pasensya? At hindi ba intin ang iyong ulo? Alam mo rin ba ang batas hinggil sa pag-iingat ng baril o firearms? Kung hindi,
A responsible gun owner.
Are you a responsible gun owner?
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 Are you a responsible gun owner? The PNP Civil Security Group would like to advise all firearms holders to renew their license to own and possess firearms and firearms registration within 6 months before its expiry date. Tumawag na at makipag-ugnayan.
Be a responsible gun owner.
One Gun Pilipinas ang sagot mga katropa at kaganos. Dahil ituturo sa inyo ng One Gun Pilipinas o OGP ang lahat ng legal na paraan at proseso upang ikaw ay maging isang responsableng gun owners. Ano pa hinihintay nyo mga kaganers? Sali na sa One Gun Pilipinas ngayon na! Responsable ka ng gun owner? At mahaba ba ang iyong pasensya? At hindi ba intin ang iyong ulo? Alam mo rin ba ang batas hinggil sa pag-iingat ng baril o firearms. Kung hindi,
A responsible gun owner.
Are you a responsible gun owner?
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 Are you a responsible gun owner? The PNP Civil Security Group would like to advise all firearms holders to renew their license to own and possess firearms and firearms registration within 6 months before its expiry date. Tumawag na at makipag-ugnayan.
Be a responsible gun owner.
One Gun Pilipinas ang sagot, mga katropa at kaganos. Dahil ituturo sa inyo ng One Gun Pilipinas o OGP ang lahat ng legal na paraan at proseso upang ikaw ay maging isang responsableng gun owners. Ano pa hinihintay nyo, mga kagamers? Sali na sa One Gun Pilipinas ngayon na! Responsable ka bang gun owner? At mahaba ba ang iyong pasensya? At hindi ba initinanong? Barangay, pangunahing unit ng pamahalaan lokal kung saan dito pinag-uusapan ang bawat sinalo ng mga residente ng bawat barangay. Dito rin pinag-uusapan ng mga piling halal na opisyal na barangay ang mga proyekto para sa kanilang barangay. Kumustahin natin ang panunungkulan ni Kapitan dito sa Dama Barangay sa Millennial Online TV Worldwide, ang katropa ng bawat barangay.
At tinatapos ang ating pagpupulong. Maraming salamat po sa inyong pagdalo at tapos na po ang ating session. Enjoy na po tayo.
Hanap mo ba ay Unwind Ventures? Tara nang mamangha sa mga tanawin. Ano man ang iyong travel goals? Dadalhin namin kayo. Sa Unwind Ventures at saya. Dito lang sa Wow Biyahe. Kaya wow, di ba?
Abangan dito lang sa Millennial Online TV. Pinaigting, pinalakas ang bagong news online TV ng bagong milenyo. Millennial Online TV, ang katropa mo sa pagbabalita.
Ikaw ba'y nag-iisa? Nalulungkot? Dahil iniwan at ipinagpalit? Niloko? Naging minamahal? Kung ngayon, i-type sa iyong mga cellphone, Facebook o YouTube man ang Millennial Online TV. Dahil nasa Millennial Online TV na ang online haralista ng bagong milenyo, si Randall Villanos.
Sana'y di magmahil kung dati kung araw nang di pang bata sa piling ni nanay. Nais kong mauli ang awit ninang mahal. You are the one who makes me happy when everything else turns to gray. Walk on through the rain. Walk on through the rain. Though your dreams be tossed and walk on with hope in your heart.
At haharamahin kayo ni Randall
Ayan ah. Good evening Philippines. Good evening Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao. Good evening sa iyo Luz Bininda. Ang oras sa hudyat alas 7:22 ng gabi Philippine Standard Time. Gulat kayo no? Wala tayo ng 2 days. Abay medyo sumama timpla ho ng ating katawan. Kaya medyo hindi ho tayo nakapag live stream. Kaya medyo pasensya na po, no? Anyway, mga kaibigan, ngayon po ay araw ng Martes, ika-21 po ng buwan ng Nobyembre, taong 2023. At syempre, sa inyo ng Tuesday edition ng programang T.R.O.P.A. At syempre, ako inyong kasama, Rosel Lopez. At kamusta naman yung ating mga kababayan dyan? Abay, mukhang hindi humambon. Tama lang yan. Pero alamin pa rin natin sa DOST PagAsa, ang lagay po ng ating panahon na buhat po sa ating kasamang at katropa, siguro bago to, si katropang Chinel De La Rosa. Tama ba, De La Rosa? Mami, alamin natin. At bukod dyan mga kaibigan, ay alamin din natin yung, alam nyo ba yung nabalita na yung nag-viral, yung pong nagkaroon na shooting incident dyan po sa may Victory Liner, no, sa isang lalawigan. Alamin natin, sabi ito raw di umano ang tunay na katotohanan ng nasabing shooting incident. Maya-maya lang ho yan. Pero yung video, i-credit natin sa rightful owner. At kasunod din yan po mga kaibigan na yung pong ginawang session ng Senado sa ilang mga budget ng bawat sangay ng ating gobyerno. Abay, pinasa na nila. Siyempre, para may pang-mobilization ang bawat sangay ng gobyerno natin. Kapag walang budget yan, paano tatakbo? Paano aandar, di ba? So, kailangan ng budget. Mami, alamin natin yan. Anyway, mga kaibigan, alas 7:25 na. Ang bilis ng oras, tumatakbo. Wag na nating patagalin mga katropa. Alamin na natin sa DOST PagAsa ang lagay po ng ating panahon. Buhat po sa ating katropang si Chinel De La Rosa, kung di ako nagkakamali. Narito po.
Magandang hapon. Narito ang weather update sa araw ng Martes, November 21, 2023. Shearline pa rin or yung salubungan na mainit at malamig na hangin ang nakakaapekto dito sa eastern section ng Southern Luzon at Visayas. Kaya makikita natin dito sa satellite imagery, yung dulot netong shearline ay itong mga kaulapan na ito. Kaya makakaranas ng maulap na panahon na may mga kasamang kalat-kalat na pag-ulan dito sa Visayas, Bicol Region, Quezon, kasama na ang Northern Mindanao, Caraga, Zamboanga Peninsula, pati na rin ang Bangsamoro. Samantala, yung northeast monsoon natin or yung hanging amihan ay patuloy na umiiral dito sa malaking bahagi ng Luzon. Kaya asahan natin na makakaranas ng maulap na panahon na may mga mahihinang pag-ulan dito sa Cagayan Valley, pati na rin dito sa Aurora. Dito naman sa Metro Manila at nalalabing bahagi ng Luzon, asahan natin ang bahagya hanggang sa maulap na panahon na may mga kasamang pulu-pulong mahihinang pag-ulan. Para naman dito sa Davao Region at Soc-Sargen, asahan natin na magiging maaliwalas ang kanilang panahon pero may mga tsansa pa rin ng localized thunderstorm lalo na sa hapon at sa gabi. Sa ngayon, wala naman tayong binabantayang tropical cyclone or low pressure area sa loob at labas ng ating Philippine Area of Responsibility. Dako tayo sa magiging panahon natin bukas dito sa Luzon, makakaapekto pa rin yung shear line dito sa Mimaropa, pati na rin dito sa Bicol Region. Kaya asahan pa rin natin na magiging maulap ang kanilang panahon na may mga kasamang kalat-kalat na pag-ulan. Para naman dito sa nalalabing bahagi, asahan natin ang maaliwalas na panahon pero may mga tsansa ng mga pulu-pulo hanggang sa mga mahihinang pag-ulan dulot pa rin netong northeast monsoon or ng hanging amihan. Sa Lawag, maglalaro ang temperatura between 20 to 32 degrees Celsius, Tugigaraw 20 to 28, Baguio 14 to 23, Metro Manila 23 to 32, Tagaytay 20 to 29. Dito naman sa Legazpi, 24 to 28 degrees Celsius at para sa Calayan Islands at Puerto Princesa, maglalaro ang temperatura between 25 to 31 degrees Celsius. Dako tayo dito sa Visayas at Mindanao, makakaranas pa rin ng maulap na panahon na may mga kalat-kalat na pag-ulan ang buong Kabisayaan, kasama na ang Zamboanga Peninsula dahil ito pa rin sa shear line nating tinatawag. Samantala, dito naman sa nalalabing bahagi ng Mindanao, asahan na natin na magiging maaliwalas ang kanilang panahon pero hindi mawawala ang mga tsansa ng localized thunderstorm. Dito sa Iloilo, maglalaro ang temperatura between 25 to 29 degrees Celsius. Sa Cebu, 25 to 30. Tacloban, 25 to 30. Para naman sa Zamboanga, 25 to 33 degrees Celsius. Cagayan de Oro, 25 to 30. At Davao, 26 to 33 degrees Celsius. May nakataas po tayong gale warning dito sa mga coastal areas ng Batanes, Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, Cagayan, Isabela, Aurora, Northern Quezon kasama ng Polillo Islands, Calaguas Island, Rapu-Rapu, Albay, Eastern Coast ng Sorsogon, Northern at Eastern Coast ng Catanduanes, Northern at Eastern Coast ng Northern Samar, pati na rin sa Eastern Coast ng Eastern Samar. Kaya pinapaalalahanan po natin ang mga kababayan natin mangisda at ang mga sasakyan maliit pandagat na delikado po pumalaot sa mga naturang coastal areas. Dako tayo sa magiging panahon natin sa susunod na 3 araw dito sa mga piling syudad sa ating bansa. Dito sa Metro Manila, makikita natin na maaliwalas ang panahon. Pero meron po itong pinagkaiba. Dito po by Thursday ay asahan natin maaliwalas ang panahon pero makakaranas po tayo ng mga mahihinang pag-ulan dulot pa rin netong northeast monsoon. Pero by Friday at Saturday, asahan natin ang maaliwalas na panahon pero may mga tsansa ng localized thunderstorm lalo na sa hapon at sa gabi. Ang temperatura dito sa Metro Manila ay maglalaro between 22 to 32 degrees Celsius. Para naman sa Baguio, asahan natin na makakaranas sila ng maulap na panahon na may mga mahihinang pag-ulan, dulot pa rin netong northeast monsoon or ng hanging amihan. Ang temperatura nila ay maglalaro between 14 to 23 degrees Celsius. Para sa Legazpi, by Thursday, makakaranas pa rin sila ng maulap na panahon, dulot pa rin netong shear line, pero by Friday, makakaranas sila ng maaliwalas na panahon. Pero by Saturday is babalik po ulit yung shear line at makakaranas na po ulit sila ng maulap na panahon na may mga kalat-kalat na pag-ulan. Ang temperatura dito sa Legazpi ay maglalaro between 24 to 30 degrees Celsius. For Metro Cebu, asahan natin na magiging maaliwalas ang kanilang panahon. Ang temperatura dito ay maglalaro between 25 to 31 degrees Celsius. Sa Davao din po, asahan din po natin na magiging maaliwalas ang panahon. Ang temperatura po dito ay maglalaro between 24 to 34 degrees Celsius. Ang sunset mamaya ay 5:24 p.m. at ang sunrise bukas ay 6 a.m. Para sa karagdagang impormasyon, bisitahin ang aming mga social media pages at ang aming website pagasa.dost.gov.ph. At yan po muna ang latest dito sa PagAsa Weather Forecasting Center. Chanel Dominguez po at magandang hapon.
Ayun, maraming salamat sa iyo, Miss Chanel Dominguez. Dominguez pala. At nagatid sa atin sa oras na alas 7:30 po ng gabi, oras sa buong kapuluan. At tuloy-tuloy pa rin tayo siyempre sa ating programang Tropa. At Rosel Lopez po at your service. Siyempre, alam niyo kung saan kayo nanonood, nakikinig siyempre sa Millennial Online TV, News and Updates. Okay, so mga kaibigan, tulad nung sinabi natin, kung naalala nyo yung nag-viral po na binaril dyan po sa may terminal ng Victory Liner sa isang lalawigan, abay, meron pala ho talagang dahilan yun, no? Alamin natin, ito yung video na iputunghay natin ay credit po, no? Doon po sa rightful owner nitong video at di umano ito raw ang totoong pangyayari doon sa nangyaring shooting incident. Panoorin po natin.
Kapatid ng babaeng binaril sa loob ng Victory Liner bus sa Caranglan, Nueva Ecija noong November 15, isiniwalat ang ginawang pagnanakaw ng sariling anak sa biktima. Sa salaysay sa Caranglan Police nitong November 16, ni Susana Mendoza Arucan, kapatid ng babaeng biktima na si Gloria Mendoza Atilano, bago ang krimen, nagawa na raw tutukan ng baril ng kanyang pamangkin na si Charlito Mendoza Atilano Jr. o alias Tisoy, na anak ni Gloria Mendoza nito lamang Abril o Mayo 2023. Hindi raw ito pinalaki pa ng kanyang ate Gloria dahil baka makulong pa niya ang nag-iisa niyang anak. Nagsimula raw na hindi magkibuan ang mag-ina nang dumating sila galing Canada. Kinuha pa raw kasi ni Tisoy ang passport ng kanyang ina at apo nito para hindi kaagad makauwi sa Pilipinas. Nalaman din umano ni Gloria na nauna nang umuwi ang kanyang anak sa kanilang bahay sa Purok 6, Santa Luciana, Cawayan City, Isabela. Sumunod na nangyari ay nalaman naman aniya ng kanyang ate Gloria na binuksan ni Tisoy sa pamamagitan ng acetylene ang kanyang vault na nasa kanyang bahay sa Lucas Subdivision, San Fermin, Cawayan City. Ayon kay Susan, naglalaman umano ang vault ng humigit kumulang 3 million pesos na halaga ng alahas at iba't ibang uri ng titulo na nakapangalan sa kanilang mga magulang, sa kanyang ate Gloria at sa pamangkin na si Tisoy. Dahil dito'y kinasuhan niya ng kanyang ate Gloria ng kasong robbery ang anak nito, pati na rin ang kanyang kalip-in partner na si Ramina Lagarteja. Sinampahan rin niya ng kanyang ate Gloria si Tisoy ng kasong carnapping matapos umanong kunin nito ang pag-aari na pickup truck. Kinumpirma naman ni Susan na may warrant of arrest laban kina Tisoy at Ramina dahil sa nabanggit ng mga kaso. Ngunit nakalaya pansamantala matapos magpiyansa ng 720,000 pesos. Maaari aniyang pinagkunan ng pampiyansa ni Tisoy ang ibinenta nitong 4 na ektaryang lupang nakapangalan sa kanya sa halagang tig 1.5 million kada ektarya. Nang matanong naman si Susana kung bakit nag-commute at hindi nagdala ng sasakyan ang kanyang kapatid at ka-live-in nito ng 5 taon na si Arman Alivia na kasama ring nabaril, ang sagot nito, ang sabi po niya sa kanyang katulong ay balikan lamang sila papuntang Tarlac City upang kunin ang alahas nitong naiwan na nagkakahalaga ng kalahating milyon. At masama din daw ang kanyang pakiramdam ng mga oras na yon, ayon kay Susana. Huli raw nakausap ng kanyang kapatid bago umalis ay ang kanyang katulong na si Annalyn Abad na siya ring kumuha ng tricycle upang ihatid sila sa terminal ng Victory Liner. Samantalang matatandaan namang inihayag na ng Philippine National Police na isa sa posibleng person of interest sa brutal na pagpatay kina Gloria at Arman ay ang anak ni Gloria. Samantalang napakomento naman ang ilang netizen. Ayon sa isa, ang dami palang pwedeng maging suspect nito, mga person of interest kasama na ang katulong, hindi lang ang anak at mga kaanak. Hirap pala pag may pera.
Okay, yun mga kaibigan yung pong 5 minutes video na yun, kayo na bahalang humusga, kayo na po bahalang magbigay ng inyong opinion kung sa pakiwari nyo, kung yun ba ang katotohanang istorya, no? Pero ganun pa man, kahit ano pa man yan, hindi dapat dumaan sa karahasan. Hindi ho dapat magkaroon ng ganun na babarilin na yung pala yung magkakamag-anak. Ewan ko pag ang pinag-uusapan ho ngayon ay pera, abay, walang kamag-anak na, ano? Ewan. At naman nung araw, hindi naman ganoon kalala. Sa bagay, nasa propesiya yan, nadaan ng taon, pasama ng pasama raw ang mundo, sinabi naman ng Panginoon yan. Okay mga kaibigan, alas 7:35 na ng gabi, oras sa buong kapuluan. At ito mga kaibigan, tuloy-tuloy na rin natin at diretso na natin yung pong ginawang pagdinig ng Senado para sa mga budget hearing ho, sa mga pondo ng bawat sangay ng ating gobyerno. No? Dapat naman ho na may pondo talaga ang bawat sangay dahil siyempre, paano ang action niya, paano kikilos, paano tatrabaho kung wala hong pondo. Diba? Talagang ganun ho, kailangan niya. Pero alamin natin, ano-anong departamento, anong sangay ng gobyerno, ang pipilasa na ang kanilang mga budget para sa ngayong taong 2024. Narito po.
Kapatid ng babaeng binaril sa loob ng Victory Liner bus sa Caranglan, Nueva Ecija noong November 15, isiniwalat ang ginawang pagnanakaw ng sariling anak sa biktima.
So thank you, Mr. President. So thank you to the Philippine Crop Insurance Corporation. We saved the best for last, Mr. President. Can we call on the BIR, Mr. President? Hindi naman kasalanan ng BIR to, sir, kasi they deal with the public a lot. So, siyempre, may mga, you cannot please everybody. Kami naman, we as elected public officials and legislators, policymakers, we react to feedback from the ground, yung mga complaints. Siyempre, that's part of our job. And we understand, siyempre, marami talagang reklamo sa inyo, Mr. President. You have confidential funds of 10 million, Commissioner?
Yes, that's
Commissioner, have you identified yourself for the record?
good afternoon. I'm Attorney Romeo Lumagi Jr., Commissioner of the Bureau of Internal Revenue.
Since when, Commissioner? Bago lang si Commissioner. Wala pa yata 1 year.
I just turned 1 year, November 15.
So congratulations po, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Ito, linista ng staff ko yung mga natatanggap naming reklamo. Baka tayo abutin ng breakfast dito, Mr. President. Ibigay ko na lang siguro itong listahan ng reklamo for the Commissioner to, in writing, ano po yung, ninyo? Ano po yung inyong response to the complaints of the public transacting with the BIR? Ganun talaga. You have a TAMP program, Mr. President? TAMP? Ano ba yun? What is that TAMP?
It's the TAMP. We do have that. It is it's the taxpayer monitoring program. So we monitor the compliance of the taxpayers. So we do that regularly so that we are ensured that they're complying with their tax obligations.
Who do you put under TAMP? All taxpayers?
There are certain criteria that have to be met in order for you to be under the TAMP monitoring program.
You're most likely a big taxpayer, tama? To be under TAMP?
Not necessarily the big, yes, but generally the bigger ones.
Yeah, the bigger
it's
ones. Yeah.
What comprises a bigger part of the collections.
Yeah.
Yes.
Big taxpayers. And if a taxpayer is placed under TAMP, you must inform the taxpayer.
Yes, Mr. President.
That's under the law?
We do that by practice.
By practice lang, or law, or by regulation?
We...
Yes.
By regulations, we have that, but not by law, Mr. President.
Yes, but siguro you formalized practice through a revenue regulation or whatever.
Yes.
Memorandum circular or whatever you call it.
Yes, Mr. President.
Thank you for that, Mr. President. You have confidential funds in the amount of 10 million pesos, diba?
Yes, Mr. President.
Why do you need it?
Well, we need it because as you've seen in the past, during when I was appointed, we had a lot of operations against illicit trades. We had operations against this big syndicate involved in ghost receipts. And we do a lot of surveillance, and it is very helpful for us in order for us to really catch these big fish, so to speak. We have been raiding big business or big tax evaders, Mr. President.
Di ba meron na kayong run after tax evaders program? Hindi ba funded na yun sa program? Sa tax evaders ba? Iba yung usapan doon sa fake receipts. Maganda yun. That's a big achievement of yours. You use your confidential funds doon. Okay yun. Tell us more about that later. Pero yung, can you justify confidential funds kailangan mo to run after big tax evaders? Meron ka ng program na gano'n eh. Diba? You can fund it under your programmed appropriations, Mr. President.
There's, Mr. President, there's really no special fund allocated for the rate program. It's really, so we use also the CF to fund.
Kasi inherited mo na lang yan eh. Yung di ba? Tagal na yan. Mga ilang years na yan? 20 years? 10 years? So all of the expenses run after tax evaders program nyo, confidential fund lahat yun?
Yes, Mr. President. So all investigations, all those work come from that.
So I think it's time to to institutionalize the program. Program na siya, regular program na dapat ng BIR yun, and then nasa regular appropriations with COA regular audit, Mr. President.
Ano nito yung tax fraud investigation and intelligence operation under revenue administration? Pwede na nyo rito.
Di bali, tignan nyo na lang to, Mr. Commissioner, yung under your revenue administration program, meron na kayong 277.8 million pesos na pwede nyo gamitin sa tax fraud investigations and intelligence operations. It's a big amount. Just take a look at it. Baka kasi paulit-ulit na tayo, and then although your amount is reasonable, ang point ko kasi sa policy question na should you really be entitled to it, Mr. President? So can you tell us more about this yung fake receipts nga? That's a big accomplishment. And sa tingin ko, tagal na yata yung problema na yan. That should be, I think, 10 to 20-year-old scam. Can you tell us more? Yes, Mr. Commissioner.
Yes, Mr. President. This scheme has been ongoing for more than, I think, earlier than 2010. And it's really just now that we're able to catch this big syndicate involved in that scheme. It has been, the projection of the selling of ghost receipts has been really going up. And the magnitude that it's now in, it's unimaginable. That's why we really focused on that, and we've caught this very large syndicate involved in that selling of ghost receipts, and what we term as ghost receipts, because it's a misnomer if we call it fake receipts, because it's not really fake in the sense that these corporations are registered, and these corporations register also their receipts with the BIR, and then they have no business except selling their official receipts or invoices for a specific percentage of the amount indicated in the invoice. And then the buyers are normally the legitimate businessmen who would then use these invoices as corresponding supporting documents for input, VAT, and also as their expenses. So that's the scheme. That's why it's not really fake receipts. So now we're really going after the syndicate, the sellers, and also the buyers, as well as the accountants and lawyers involved. As long as we're able to prove, we've already filed a case against the accountant involved. We've seen that he was the advisor of these buyers of ghost receipts. That's why we filed the necessary case in the PRC also.
Pero accountant to advise the buyers of ghost receipts, but the issuers of the ghost receipts, tukoy nyo na.
Yes, Mr. President, we also filed the case, and the investigation is ongoing. We will continuously file cases against the sellers, the buyers, and even the accountants. So ongoing. So we've filed cases against the sellers. We've also the biggest sellers, and also we've already filed cases against the biggest buyers. And then we also filed a case against the accountant of those big corporations. And soon enough, in the coming weeks, we will also file again criminal cases against other buyers as well. So we were continuing our audit investigation against all of these involved.
Have you noticed a common denominator among the sellers?
Among the sellers, well,
Is there one player who orchestrated all of these things, or kanya-kanya silang naisip nila itong scheme na ito?
well, as far as what we know, there's really one who is actually the mastermind, and then ultimately some other learned of it and then copied the system. But there's the one that's really the head, the so-called the brain. We've already filed the case against them. So again, for those who are into it, because they learned of this from this brainchild, and then we were going after them as well. So we're
Si originator, nakasuhan na.
yes.
Si copycats, dahan kakasuhan.
Dahan-dahan po.
Okay, so
Kasi po, tinitingnan po natin lahat ng mga corporations, and you will be surprised that itong syndicate na to, lahat ng corporations, makikita nyo it cuts across all industries, but whatever it is, if you need a receipt for something, definitely they have one for you. So ganun po kalawak ang operasyon nila, and kaya po nahihirapan na habulin. But of course, with our commitment that we will run against this syndicate, kaya po tayo po mismo, nagpunta mismo tayo doon sa mga addresses at makita po natin na wala naman po talaga sila doon.
So congratulations for that, Mr. Commissioner, Mr. President. So, busted na yung sindikatong yan.
Tama po.
Okay, sige. And should there be a new copycat, I hope there's a system in place, mahuhuli ninyo. Kasi parang computerized naman yata kayo. You can, makikita nyo na si seller, wala siyang ibang wala siyang OR eh. Wala siyang OR sa mga transaksyon niya. Wala siyang operations except to issue its own OR eh. Tama po ba yun?
Tama po. Kaya nga
dapat
po,
huli ng system ninyo yan, Mr. President.
Kaya po pagka nakita po natin mga unknown addresses, in fact, in the slum areas po, yung mga ibang ginagamit na address, tapos yung mga pagpumunta po kayo doon, hindi nila alam na nagagamit yung address nila. So ganyan po yung ano. At nakatutok po because we're also putting a system in place so that once na merong ganyan, mafa-flag po sa amin.
Hindi nila alam na may napakalaking, na may korporasyon doon na napakalaki ng sales. Tama?
Tama po.
O revenues. Sales or revenue. Okay, siguro, meron kasing 13 billion pesos excess or erroneously collected VAT. Are you under obligation to refund this?
13, I think 13 billion for now is, I think that's the allocation for refunds.
Refunds?
Yes, allocation. But of course, ang refund po ay subject to our evaluation. And then, so not necessarily magagamit po itong 13 billion na ito. It's just by law. That's Section 106 po.
That's not included in the 14.9 billion na we are appropriating for the agency.
Hindi po kasali.
Iba yan, ano? Iba.
Special fund po yan na nakatabi po kasi not necessarily magagamit po yan. So as long as there's application for refund,
you charge it to that fund.
We charge it to that account.
So that 13 billion parang should be sufficient for what? Tax refunds as of a certain date?
Because that 5% is that 13 billion is by law sa Section 106 po is 5% of the previous VAT collection, previous year's VAT collection po.
We set it aside for
for refund.
Do we do that every year, bale? So palaki ng palaki yan.
Yes, so kung palaki po na palaki yung VAT collection, which gano'n naman po nangyayari, so lumalaki rin po.
Lumalaki yung set aside fund, but the claims for a claim for an excess VAT payment or what other claims ba? Erroneously collected or disputed collection. Umaabot ba sa ganong level?
Based on data, hindi naman po umaabot sa ganong amount po.
Pero anyway, by law yun. So maybe we can revisit that legal provision and adjust that percentage if kasi, di ba? If it's not, ano ba nangyayari? When it's set aside, what happens? Hindi siya it's actually there. Hindi siya nagagamit ng gobyerno. What is
Hindi
it?
po it goes back to the general fund po pagka hindi po nagamit. So balik lang po.
Every year then?
Every year din.
Okay. So we don't need to, if that is the system, we don't need to revisit it, Mr. President. So Mr. President, last na lang siguro, kasi I will give you the list of the complaints now. Please respond.
Yes.
Ito po yung pinakamabigat na reklamo sa BIR, yung kaya nga kami napilitan dito mag-ONTA, gagawa tayo ng ONTA, meron tayong Taxpayers Bill of Rights. Kasi ito po yung mga i-assess daw sila ng 10 million, tapos pwede pa lang 2 million lang ang cash out nila, pero ang resibo nila 400,000. Yung mga ganon. And ito, may kausap ako sa opisina talaga. I mean, pinatotoo ng isang tax practitioner yon na gano'n na nangyayari. And very recent. So, how do we use our confidential fund, Commissioner, to stop this practice, Mr. Commissioner?
Well, again, thank you for that concern. We admit that I think that's the first step towards improving our agency is to admit every comments like that. And kaya welcome po yun. And part of our concentration now is to improve the image of BIR. That's why we're focused on the integrity and professionalism of our institution. And part of it, kaya nga po ginagawa po namin yung ISO certification for the entire Philippines so that the processes will be improved. Yan po yung ginagawa namin. And also, part of that is the integrity management. Kaya rin po, pinapaigting din po namin ang investigasyon din namin sa aming hanay. Of course, while I can say that BIR is a professional institution, maraming maayos po na tao. But of course, hindi natin may iwasan na meron pong iilan dyan na hindi gumagawa ng tama. Kaya po we are also very stern in going after them. In like a few months ago, we already filed a case against our own employee for nakikisabwat po sa isang, sila po ang may-ari ng software management para mandaya ng buwis na mga yung sales suppression machines, na mga binibenta ng mga POS machines. So when we learned of that, and then nag-data gathering po tayo, and then nahuli po natin using our own resources din po. That's why we were able to file the necessary criminal case against him. So pending na po yan sa DOJ against our employees. And also within a few months after I assumed office, ay nakapag-dismiss na po kami ng 26 na employees, and soon after we will be issuing another 28 preventive suspension orders. So rest assured that in this administration, we will punish those who are really doing the unacceptable practices in BIR.
Pero Commissioner, ganito, Mr. President, ang problema, pag kunyari may nagsusumbong sa akin, sa amin, or kanin, go tayo affidavit. Sumbong tayo. Natatakot Ayaw Tax practitioner yung lawyer, pati yung kliyente niya. So, siguro if we can establish a system na hindi matatakot magsumbong, I think that's the best Tapos we are all professionals naman na hindi naman alam natin how to treat a sumbong. We investigate the complaint. We do not treat it as if it is already fact or the truth, di ba? Parang ganun. Pero natatakot po sila Takot Sa akin hindi. Siyempre sasabihin ko, hindi ko naman i-divulge pangalan mo. Pero let's put this in writing. Pirmahan nyo. Ayaw So if you can discover such a system na ang BIR pwede ng takbuhan ng bayan magsumbong na hindi sila natatakot because walang backlash o buwelta sa kanila, then you will really redeem first the image of the BIR and regain the trust of the people. I hope yung aming ginawang law, meron kaming ginawa under the leadership of Senator Win Gatchalian, yung ONTA. Office of the National Tax Advocate. Na I hope na pwede rin takbuhan. Yun takbuhan sila. Salo na ni ONTA yung, natakpan na ni ONTA yung identity ng complainant, it will now be the ONTA, which will now bring the issue to the attention of the BIR. Pero in process pa lang yan You can do this administratively, Commissioner, Mr. President. So, just an advice. Yun lang, kasi basta sinasabi ko lang sa iyo yung thinking ng ating mga kababayan. Maraming gusto magsumbong pero natatakot because of the possible repercussion, yung ganti. Andun pa yung practice nila Tsaka andun yung negosyo nila So, yung viability po ng negosyo. So, Okay, at least I don't need a reaction from the commissioner. Suggestion lang naman yun. So, at any rate, Mr. President, yun na lang. We'll just submit the list of complaints because abutin talaga tayo ng breakfast dito, Mr. President. Hindi naman ito kasalanan ng commissioner or ano, because the BIR, you deal with the general public eh. So talagang you cannot make them all happy. May reklamo talaga. And of course, how large is your is your manpower? Yung how large is it?
We have around 20,000 employees.
20,000 eh siyempre.
20,000 in terms of, plantilla items,
Yes.
but we have a manpower of around 16,000.
16,000 pa rin yun. Parang isang bayan pa rin yan. Isang bayan yan. And siyempre, meron din po talagang medyo malilihis po ng landas. But at least under the new leadership, proactive and strict leadership of our commissioner, we are expecting improvements. So with that, Mr. President, I think we have exhausted
Thank you.
and not only our time but also our energy to the Department of Finance. We wish them all the best. Ang lumalabas dito, Commissioner Rubio, masasabi ko nga medyo happy ako sa sagot sa lahat except customs medyo kulang pa sir, kulang pa sa customs.
On the case, Your Honor, BIR.
Commissioner.
Commissioner. No, I just want to say I had a meeting with him last week and he was telling us that he's doing reforms. Marami na daw siyang tinote at tinanggal sa posisyon. First time daw na ginawa nila yun. So, we commend him for that. Keep up the good work. And hopefully, it takes a younger fellow like this gentleman here who will make the reforms happen. So keep up the good work, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this juncture, may I move that we terminate the suspension of the rules of the Senate? So move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion, Majority Floor Leader. Motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we close the period of interpellations and debate and consider the budget of the Department of Finance, Office of the Secretary, Bureau of Customs, Bureau of Internal Revenue, Bureau of Local Government Finance, Bureau of the Treasury, Central Board of Assessment Appeals, Insurance Commission, National Tax Research Center, Privatization and Management Office, Budgetary Support to Government Corporations, Philippine Tax Academy, Philippine Crop Insurance Corporation, and Philippine Deposit Insurance Corporation to be deemed submitted for the body's consideration. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion of the Majority Floor Leader, the budgets of the Department of Finance and all its attached agencies aforementioned by the Majority Leader is deemed submitted. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I ask for a minute suspension?
Session suspended for 1 minute.
Mr. President, I move that we consider the budget of the Public Attorney's Office and acknowledge the presence of its officials led by our good friend, PAO Chief Persida Acosta. And we'd like to move that we recognize the distinguished sponsor of the measure, Senator Sani Angara. So move, Mr. President.
Our distinguished sponsor, Senator Sani Angara, is recognized to sponsor the budget of the Public Attorney's Office.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, Majority Leader, dear colleagues. The budget of the Public Attorney's Office, or PAO, for 2024 is 5,275,640,000 for the record, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. And we support the budget of PAO considering that we need to produce more lawyers, public attorneys office, expand PAO's office so that we can protect our people. With that, Mr. President, and there being no other reservation for interpellation, I move that we close the period of interpellations and debate and consider the budget of Public Attorney's Office to be deemed submitted for the body's consideration. So move, Mr. President.
First of all, I'd like to welcome the PAO Chief, Persida Acosta. Ma'am, welcome to your Senate. It's good to see you and the family, the whole PAO family. Without further ado, no objections to the motion of the Majority Floor Leader. The budget of the Public Attorney's Office is deemed submitted. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we consider the budget of Design Center of the Philippines, Philippine Trade Training Center, and the budgetary support to government corporations under the Department of Trade and Industry Center for International Trade Expositions and missions, and acknowledge the presence of its officials present here today. I now move that we recognize the distinguished sponsor of the measure, Senator Sani Angara. So move, Mr.
A
President.
distinguished Senator Angara from the province of Aurora is recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President, Majority Leader. I'm just pinch hitting for the chair of the subcommittee, Senator Villar, Mark Villar. The budget, for the record, the budget of the Design Center of the Philippines for 2024 is 133,524,000. For the pinasa ba yung CFO? Hindi. For the Center for International Trade Expositions and Missions, or CITEM, it's 181,157,000. Did you mention the Commission for Filipinos Overseas? Okay. Just for the record then, Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. There being no other reservation for interpellation, I move that we close the period of interpellations and debate and consider the budget of the Design Center of the Philippines, Philippine Trade Training Center, budgetary support to government corporations under the Department of Trade and Industry, Center for International Trade Expositions, and missions to be deemed submitted for the body's consideration. I so move, Mr. President.
The aforementioned agencies mentioned by our majority floor leader is deemed submitted. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, this juncture I move that we consider the budget of the Department of Science and Technology, other executive offices, the Commission on Filipinos Overseas, and acknowledge the presence of its officials led by Secretary Romulo Arugay. And at this juncture, I move that we recognize the sponsor of the measure, Senator Sani Angara.
Again, I'm just pinch hitting here for our chairman of the subcommittee, Senator Francis Tolentino. The budget of the Commission of Filipinos Overseas for 2024 is 157,895,000. We thank Senator Tolentino for hearing it at the committee level.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. No other reservation for interpellation, and so I move that we close the period of interpellations and debate and consider the budget of the Commission on Filipinos Overseas to be deemed submitted for the body's consideration. I so move, Mr.
There be
President.
no objection to the motion. The budget of the Commission on Filipinos Overseas is deemed submitted.
Consider the budget of Philippine Statistics Authority and acknowledge the presence of its officials led by Yusek Claire Dennis Mapa. Sir, thank you for being here. And move that we recognize the distinguished sponsor of the measure, no other than the chairperson of the Senate Committee on Finance, Senator Sani Angara. So move, Mr. President.
Our distinguished colleague, Senator Sani Angara, is recognized, and we'd like to thank the presence, of course, of Undersecretary Claire Dennis Mapa. Miss lang po namin kayo, Claire. I think they just want to ask you to clarificatory questions on certain issues that are
thank you.
introduced today. Senator Angara is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President, Majority Leader, the daddy of the Senate. Mr. President, I don't think there's a need to state the budget since this is a round two for the PSA, Your Honor. We're ready to accept questions from
Mr. President, may I be allowed to, while we are waiting for the minority leader. Mr. President, distinguished colleague, let's put on record that we are in agreement when that particular incident raised by no less than our colleague, Senator Bato de la Rosa, came up with regard to the issuance of passports that's submitted birth certificates na legitimate and at the same time ay authenticated by the Philippine Statistics Authority. Mr. President, distinguished colleague, we understand that the 6 foreigners who were able to get Philippine passports submitted birth certificates that were altered. Yun po yung sinabi ng ating PSA Assistant National Statistician, Mariza Grande. In this context, Your Honor, distinguished colleague, what does alter actually mean? Does it mean genuine birth certificates were issued, but they were tampered with, or was the PSA birth certificate fake from the very start?
Fake ho talaga yung datos na galing ho sa local civil registrar ho. Yung datos. So there was a fake registration at the local level, Your
To
Honor.
begin with, it was fake.
That's correct.
Unfortunately, it was not checked, or because when we were deliberating on the budget of the Department of Foreign Affairs, I distinctly remember, and in fact, I echoed what they reported out in this plenary, that the documents were actually PSA certified. So it doesn't necessarily mean it was certified by PSA?
The PSA is the repository of the information given by the local civil registrars, Your Honor, which are under the local chief executives. But they should also take measures to ensure the integrity of the data, Your Honor.
Actually, that is my where I'm driving at, Your Honor, distinguished colleague. Perhaps if PSA, considering that we reconsidered their budget so we can hear from them, perhaps we can ask them what security features do you have to ensure that agencies such as the Department of Foreign Affairs who rely on PSA-issued documents know what to look for in a genuine document.
We are to have Senator channeling data certain documents that will be
Hindi ito yung so between January to September, they sent the 26,000 documents there for verification. So there is
a process, Your Honor, where they now put a QR code to each birth certificate. And if an agency has a question on if they feel or they have a suspicion that some documents are spurious or of dubious origin, they can trace it back. And in fact, I am informed that between January and September of this year, there were over 26,000 requests from the DFA for validation of civil registry documents. And as a result of that validation, 308 birth certificates were found to be fake, Your Honor.
Wow. 308,
Your Honor.
Fake.
That's not limited to Filipinos, Your Honor, dear Majority Leader, but
Okay.
both Filipinos and foreigners, Your Honor.
Okay, I got it, Your Honor. Thank you. So fake pala itong mga birth certificates na pinakita. Pero if I recall and I understand, there's one birth certificate which was authenticated by a PSA. Authentic daw po. Is that correct? Merong isa? Is that correct na there's one birth certificate na authentic?
Baka siguro, Your Honors, baka garbage in, garbage out. Kasi kung yung civil registrar magbigay sa kanila ng birth certificate,
actually,
they will basically think it would be true.
Afterwards, Your Honor.
O parang ganun siguro mangyayari dyan. I will just wait for the confirmation.
That's correct, Your Honor. There was one that was found to be authentic. The case of, am I allowed to say?
Okay. Your Honor.
It's the case of Maria Menor, who was born in Santa Cruz, Zambales. It's genuine, Your Honor.
Oh, hindi siya foreigner.
The others were fake, Your Honor.
Hindi siya foreigner.
Hindi po.
Kasi kung foreigner siya, well, so Filipino po siya, yung hindi peke, no? So, yung binabanggit po ni Senate President, of those with altered birth certificates, some are registered in the civil registry office, hindi ba? So, what does this mean? Does this mean that they have genuine records of birth certificates issued by the civil registry office? Because if they are registered with the local civil registry office, it means that they also have a PSA birth certificate. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah. Usually, the local civil registrars, upon registry with them, they are also supposed to do a timely or immediate relay that birth to the PSA, Your Honor. The problem arises when the when the registration is late with the PSA, Your Honor. That is beyond 30 days. That is beyond 30 days, Your Honor. If it is done 30 days, they term it as a late registration of birth, Your Honor.
Ganon. Pagka beyond 30 days, late na.
Yes, so they have an estimate of around 3.7 million na Filipinos na hindi pa nare-rehistro. So, would fall under that category, Your Honor.
Kaya, Your Honor, medyo nalito lang ako no kasi yung dun sa one birth certificate na authentic, tinignan ko po ulit yung report, foreigner po eh. Is that, the documents of the 7th foreigner were found to be authentic. Ito po yung report eh. So, hindi ho totoo na authentic. Because no less than PSA Assistant National Statistician Marisa Grante noted that some of the 6 fake birth certificates were registered in the Civil Registry Office.
The 6 are made, yung isa,
Which is which?
registered siya talaga at work. So one must be different in that 8 months. Kasi niregister siya at work. So, unless hindi siya that's what pinakala ng Philippines. She was born 1999. And hindi siya doon sa date registry.
It was a timely, well, the facts relate to me, Your Honor. It was a timely registration, meaning it was done within the 30-day period to relay the fact or the certificate of birth. But the registration was done in Zambales of a Filipino citizen. So if the citizen was a foreigner, it could be a case of identity theft, Your Honor.
Oh, that's why. Now I get it. Thank you, Mr. President. And again, we are one with PSA in doing its job in ensuring that these documents being issued by our Philippine Statistics Authority are being scrutinized and double, triple check because it's now being used, Mr. President, to so many illegal activities. Just recently, yung mga, just yesterday, we were talking about the fake IDs issued by, it's not even fake, it's actually authenticated IDs issued by the Department of Labor and Employment. Ito po nga alien employment permits na ginagamit naman for illegal activities. So, thank you, Mr. President. I will end my interpellation and thus that we recognize the next interpellator, no other than our Senate Minority Leader, Senator Coco Pimentel.
Thank you, distinguished Majority Leader.
Thank you. Since this is already the second appearance of the PSA, I will keep this short, Mr. President. So, just to pursue one of the ideas raised by the Majority Leader, yung identity theft. Ito mga na-encounter po natin, ito yung mga questionable but genuine passports issued by the DFA based on alleged PSA certified basic documents. How many cases can we say amount to identity theft? Meaning to say, nag-research sila ng mga existing Filipinos, they tried to assume the identity, and then how many are straightforward fraud cases na they are not really Filipinos, and they will force the documents to make it appear that they are Filipinos?
Pero in general.
In general, they namin sila at nagpapanggap na
So fraud. There is overwhelming. It's fraud, Your Honor. The case of identity theft seems to be very, very small compared to the.
And I hope kung let us say they try this, mahuhuli ba, madedetect ba natin?
They'll work to strengthen this back channel because it has resulted in it has yielded some positive results in the past. So they're just trying to see how maybe they can make it better, Your Honor.
And there's an automated way of checking. May AI kayo or what, a computer program?
Sir, because they're interviewing, they pass channel.
There is a QR code, and secondly, when they do the interviews, Your Honor, for the passport, they back channel if there are doubts as to the circumstances or the origins of the documents of the individual.
DFA does the interview.
Yes, Your Honor.
Also, what have we established tonight, Mr. President? Kasi yung sinabi dun sa hearing ng DFA, they just acted on PSA certified basic documents. So, what have we established now? That really there are PSA certified basic documents like birth certificate?
This is what we are proposing.
What have we established? Yun ang question.
Anong findings natin ngayong gabi?
Well, I think what we've established, Your Honor, is that there is a need for coordination between agencies. And without that coordination, because DFA on its own would not be able to detect the fraud, I think, without the assistance of PSA. So PSA really has to strengthen its anti-fraud mechanisms, Your Honor.
PSA is not disputing that statement from the DFA that they were acting on PSA certified basic documents. So yun.
Hindi ba nag-back channel into 7? In that instant, they did not back channel with the PSA. So maybe it should be institutionalized, Your Honor. Or maybe there was no prima facie evidence on the part of the DFA for them to back channel.
Reason for them
yes, or reason, yes, Your Honor.
Kaya nga, imposible we can put it sa procedure na you have to back channel each and every time, Mr. President. Imposible. Parang inikot lang din natin. What's the purpose of that PSA certificate? That should be relied upon, di ba? You should be able to trust the certification. Hindi, ang point ko, Mr. President, para klaro lang. Basta
what they're doing now, they're proposing because yung mga ibang cases, dala ng tao yung supposedly PSA certified document. So what are they a double safety mechanism, so to speak, Your Honor, is they will now be the one to send if there's an application to the agency, they will be the one to send the birth certificate. So that is a double or a second guard against the.
I hope you can operationalize that. Pero how do you keep track kung sinong
We'll ask them to further elucidate, Your Honor.
Maybe I can add to the discussion.
Yes, Mr. President.
Probably, Undersecretary, your department will put red flags first of all, for late registrations. Di ba? Basta late registration, medyo kailangan i-double check yan. Pangalawa, hindi naman po lahat ng late registration ay hindi Pilipino. Kasi meron akong nangyari sa akin, minority leader, yung kasambahay namin, pinanganak lang sa bahay, pinalaki, hindi talaga na-register for whatever purpose, lalo sa mga mahirap, lalo na sa ITs. Our indigenous communities in the provinces, even in our place in Bukidnon, marami sa kanila walang birth certificate. But they're genuine Filipinos. So, I think we have to differentiate that. Yung Pinoy na late registrants, okay yan. Pero yung mahirap, yung nagpapanggap na Pilipino. And I think if you red flag them, if there's going to be, of course, an interview, hindi naman marunong mag-English, hindi marunong mag-Tagalog, hindi marunong mag-Bisaya, mag-Ilocano, ching chow chung lang, hindi mo maintindihan, di ba? Hindi, yung ano kinakanta mo, majority dito may kinakanta ka eh. Butchiki, yan mahirap yun. So, yan ang talagang hindi bigyan. Lalo na when they apply for PSA certified documents. Pagkaganyan nga ang situation. I don't want to be discriminating to anybody, but it's true. It's a national security concern. That's why we asked you to come here. It's not because of the late registrants na Pinoy who are trying to get fake documents to just ascertain that they're Filipino. It's the foreigners that are coming in and nagpapanggap ng Pilipino. I think that's the national security concern, that issue. So I hope they can red flag it. I'm sure all the civil registrars that send to you documents on a weekly, daily basis. Mababantayan yan kung yung tao na nag-apply niyan ay 50 years old na or 30 years old. Sandali, meron kayong ibang folder. Dito natin muna ilagay ito. Let's make sure na Pilipino yan. Siguro, yan po magagawa ng ating PSA. I would suggest.
Thank you for the suggestions, Mr. President.
yung holder of a genuine Philippine passport based on PSA certified documents, that person can apply for a national ID. Tama?
Yes, Your Honor.
So ayan po, Mr. President, ang national security concern dito. Tatlo na hawak ng tao eh. Meron siyang birth certificate, may pasaporte siya, may national ID pa siya. Halos hindi mo na layering na eh. Halos hindi mo na ma-question ang Filipino citizenship. Shortcut. Pero pag tingnan mo yung process, shortcut lahat, Mr. President. Ano pa? Walang legal basis na shortcut pa lahat. Expedited procedure na siya, wala pang legal factual basis. So that's actually the national security concern here. Ano na yung konektado po lahat. Well, at any rate, Mr. President, we recall the PSA nga to bring this to the attention of our national statistician. Pero one of the reasons so pinatawag ko siya, dinagdagan ko na lang is about our agricultural statistics. Ano na lang, siguro, it's just we will not debate anymore about the formula kasi hindi ako convinced doon sa formula ninyo na umiikot, para sa akin, umiikot nga. Siguro just an appeal na I think even the Department of Agriculture said na hindi accurate they also question your statistics eh. Kaya gusto na rin ni Secretary, one of his programs actually, kung hindi daw niya kaya magtayo ng Bureau of Agricultural Statistics, kahit daw within his office, magsa-start daw siya ng collection and analysis of agricultural statistics. Yan ang point niya eh. So I hope let's hear the response of the PSA kasi parang alam mo, Mr. President, puro slap on the face na itong pinag-uusapan natin kanina. Si PNP was a slap on its face. Si Bureau of Customs, another slap on its face. This may amount to a slap on the face of PSA, Mr. President.
Yes, I see your point, distinguished minority leader. According to the PSA, they have had meetings on data harmonization of agriculture and fishery statistics with the DA, the NEDA, and the Office of the President Planning Management Service. And the main agreement or covenant during that meeting is that the DA will use the official available data from the PSA, but for periods with no available data yet from the PSA, the DA will be allowed to use their forecasted value, but with a proper note or footnote that the data is based on a forecast, Your Honor.
Yan, mga ganon. Yes, o dapat nga ma-differentiate forecast or just a tabletop computation or an actual on-the-ground survey or research. Importante po yan. So I hope with all of these improvements, Mr. President, our data, our statistics will be more reliable, Mr. President. So, basta na alam naman ni Dr. Mapa na yun na nagagamit yung figures natin to reinforce the need to import. Ganun lang, ganun, umiikot eh. So, ganun po nangyayari. So, per your tabletop computation, kasi ito yung pinag-aralan ko sa onion eh. Sabi ninyo, per capita consumption of onion, 2.341 kilograms per year. Okay. Pinaparecord ko lang yan. With your improved systems, report to us now what would be the result of the per capita consumption of onion with your improved systems, Mr. President. Sige, after you have put that in place, Mr. President.
Again.
Okay na?
For supply, because we are completely yung demand kasi
They don't, according to them, they don't compute the demand side. What they compute is the supply side, Your Honor. So yung figure na yun, galing sa DA ho yun.
Hindi sir eh. Kung tinanong ko nga sa DA yun, how do you compute national demand? Sinabi nila, we use the per capita demand from PSA. Kaya nga humingi ako sa inyo nung equation, binigyan nyo naman ako ng equation. Nakita ko nga nandun. Ang ending ninyo is a per capita consumption. That's the problem. Okay, sir, kung hindi yun, if you did not mean it that way, it's being used that way. Dapat maalaman ninyo ng DA. They use PSA, okay, para maklaro they use PSA figure to compute their own figures, lalo na sa national consumption. Okay. And then you use their figures to compute your own figure. Nandun sa beginning stock plus national production plus importation. Yun yung nasa po, ano ninyo eh. That is what you submitted to me. O kaya, well, so pati yung mga submissions ninyo sa amin, let it be accurate din, as accurate as your statistics. Kasi you cannot disown what you have submitted to me. Binuhusan din namin ng oras to analyze it, Mr. President. Eh.
Yes, Your Honor.
So don't tell me na you're disowning what you submitted to us. So, yun po yun. I mean,
They agree with you, Your Honor. They agree.
so wag na tayo, basta sinasabi, I'm informing the PSA now, yung mga resulta ninyo doon, ginagamit na ng ibang agencies, paikot-ikot, and then you use the figures of the agency to derive that data, that figure that is being used by the agency. Umiikot, it's a self-reinforcing process. Ang masama rito, it's used to justify importation, Mr. President. That's the problem. Kaya nagiging Department of Importation na halos lahat, Mr. President. So, siguro I hope nagkakaintindihan kami ni national statistician. I mean, you are the best mathematician in the land, Mr. President. Opo.
But the minority leader is the best mathematician in the Senate.
I will concede, Mr. President. I am the better lawyer than the national statistician because he is not a lawyer.
Maybe there is a vacancy in 2025, Your Honor.
I think that would be all, Mr. President. I think napaabot na natin yung gusto natin.
Yes, certainly. Sir, your points have been very powerfully made, Minority Leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. We join the call of our minority leader because this is very important. Dito nababasa yung mga malalaking decision-making na ginagawa ng ating mga
Before we move to the motion, may we just ask the PSA also to submit to us, my office particular, and I'll spread it to the other senators. You said there's about 300 fake birth certificates.
Yes, Your Honor.
Without naming the names now, because we don't want to put them in a bad light, can you submit the list of the LGUs that had submitted? Kasi galing, as I said, garbage in, garbage out.
Yes.
So may LGUs na nag-issue niyan eh. If you can give us the list, because we're doing an ongoing
They will
investigation.
furnish, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, distinguished colleagues. At this juncture, I move that we close the period of interpellations and debate and consider the budget of the Philippine Statistics Authority to be deemed submitted for the body's consideration. I so move, Mr.
There is
President.
no objection. With finality, the budget of the Philippine Statistics Authority is deemed submitted. Thank you very much for coming back.
Ask for a minute suspension, Mr. President.
Session suspended for 1 day.
Congrats.
President, this juncture, I move that we consider the budget of the Department of Trade and Industry, Office of the Secretary, Board of Investments, Construction Industry Authority of the Philippines, budgetary support to government corporations, small business corporation, and acknowledge the presence of its officials present here today. We'd like to move that we recognize the distinguished sponsor of the measure, Senator Mark Villar, and to interpellate our minority leader, Senator Coco Pimentel. I so move, Madam President.
We welcome the DTI family and recognize Senator Mark Villar and Senator Aquilina Pimentel.
Mr. President, it is my privilege, Madam President, it is my privilege to sponsor the proposed budget of the Department of Trade and Industry, its attached agencies, excluding the Cooperative Development Authority, and attached corporations, excluding the Aurora Pacific Economic Zone and Freeport Authority for the fiscal year 2024. The Department of Trade and Industry is mandated to be the primary coordinative, promotive, facilitative, and regulatory arm of the government for the country's trade, industry, and investment activities. They play a central role in stimulating the participation of the private sector in the country's economy through integrative policies and programs. Being at the helm of the country's trade and industry, DTI is supported by its attached agencies in realizing the government's goal of sustainable economic growth for every Filipino. The budgets of the attached agencies of the DTI under Subcommittee M, as reflected in the committee report, are as follows. Board of Investments, 665.003 million. Construction Industry Authority of the Philippines, 187.631 million. Design Center of the Philippines, 133.524 million. Philippine Trade Training Center, 96.979 million. Aside from the mentioned agencies, there are also two attached corporations to DTI, namely the Center for International Trade Expositions and Mission, with an allocated budget of 181.157 million, and Small Business Corporation with a budget of 1.5 billion pesos. Finally, the Office of the Secretary is given a budget of 5.962 billion, which brings the total budget of the DTI to 8.726484 billion pesos. Mr. President, before we proceed with the discussion on the budget of DTI, allow me to express my gratitude to our colleagues for their support to the budgets of the SITEM, Science Center of the Philippines, and the Philippine Trade Training Center. I believe that their budgets have already been approved earlier here at the plenary. The approval of their budgets aligns with our intent to forward the development of the country's trade and industry. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, I am appealing for your extensive support in the approval of the DTI budget and its remaining attached agencies and corporations. It's all in our best interest to see through the effective discussion of DTI's budget, as it will direct the trajectory of the future of Filipino trade and businesses. Thank you, Mr. President. I now welcome the questions of my dear colleagues for a fruitful discussion of DTI and its attached agencies' budget.
Thank you, Madam President. So, the DTI being a non-controversial agency, puro good news lang naman ang lumalabas sa DTI. So, let's just talk about your achievements, points of view, plans, etc., and other challenges para for the purpose of equipping us with knowledge to better help your agency. So, ito, directed na to the DTI family to, Mr. Sponsor, Mr. Chairman. How does the BOI intend to follow up on the foreign investment pledges, which according to your secretary, and the secretary is in San Francisco?
Yes, he's currently in the APEC.
Which according to Secretary Pascual, these foreign investment pledges are at a record high. Sige po, anong plano natin? Kasi ang parati ko sinasabi, ang puhunan sa pledge, laway. So, kailangan natin talagang dumating dito po yung pledges.
There are currently account managers who are focused on all the investors. So, sila po yung naka-assign para i-follow up yung mga investment pledges and opportunities.
The account managers are employees of the BOI?
Yes, they're employees of the BOI.
Experts?
Experts, yes. And we also have foreign posts.
The foreign, those posted, assigned to foreign posts are under the employ of?
Yes, for the
DTI?
they're called the trade attaches.
DTI?
Yes.
DTI yan, ano? Trade
Yes.
attaches are DTI staff. Okay. And how much are these foreign investment pledges na at a record, claimed to be at a record high?
Currently, they're at a total of 71 point. As of October 13, the investment value is as a $71.598.8 million.
Okay. Historically, how much of pledges are turned into actual investments? Yung talagang tangible investments.
80%. More or less about 80%, Your Honor.
80%. Okay. Maganda na yun. I hope your statistic, we do not need to refer that to PSA, Mr. President. Gusto niyo pa-double check ko ba sa PSA yan?
I think these
Hindi na? Hindi na? Okay.
These are historical, so I think we should, we're okay.
Okay. Ang problema daw natin kasi is hindi daw tayo magaling mag-pursue or mag-follow up. So I hope you just work on that. Kailangan ba ng mga special training sa ganun? I mean, yung mga account managers, are they supposed to undergo some specialized training?
Well, because of well, a lot of them have been there for many years, so their experience is
Yeah, I see.
quite extensive. And aside from that, they also have regular training. So I'd say they're very well equipped to handle these accounts.
Do we have ideas na or feedback on why some, at least 20% of those who made pledges did not make good on their pledge? Hindi nila tinuloy. Bakit? What would be the reasons given to us?
Yeah, well, it's very when it comes to attracting investments, of course, we also have competitors. So sometimes they have interest, but unfortunately, for various business reasons, they choose other areas or other countries. So I mean, that's part of why we have to be very competitive when it comes to attracting foreign investments.
Siguro tayo rin siguro, let's be more siguro strict in our reporting na hindi lang yung may nakabulong sa atin na pledge, isasama na natin sa grand total na i-announce natin sa publiko. Baka ganun.
That's true.
I do not know. Just improve your system na ano ba yung more or less serious pledge or just a light-hearted pledge. We should be able to distinguish. Kasi ganun, itatanong namin how much are the pledges? Ilan ang na-turn into to real investments? So, sige po. Okay. And then, can I ask the Construction Industry Authority of the Philippines, is it true andito po sila? Is it correct to say that the number of building permits approved nationwide has dropped, Mr. President? Unless that is not within your knowledge, okay lang po sa akin.
That's not within the CIAP's knowledge.
Local government?
The local governments would be aware of that.
I thought meron. Maybe the PSA should also know. Diba? Tama?
I suppose they
do we need to recall the PSA, Mr. President? Tatlo. Joke only. We're just for some from relaxing moments, Mr. President. Okay. CIAP has issued the document number 102. At least siguro yan, familiar kayo dyan. That is meant to alleviate the number of disputes arising from contractual arrangements. So, tama po ba yan? What is document 102?
That was designed to lessen arbitration, so that
lessen the resort to
yes.
the CIAP process.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How?
By clarifying the contract details.
So, tinuturuan nyo sila to improve contracts? Ganun yun? There are guidelines on how to make contracts.
Make guidelines to make the contracts
more detailed,
clear, detailed.
Yeah, more detailed.
Yes.
Ito lahat. Okay.
Also to clarify where they would go for arbitration.
Okay. Okay. When did we issue this document 102?
This was issued last year, Your Honor.
Around what month of last year?
It was around July.
Oh, so may 1 year na to. So, from your data, nakatulong ba? Pero historical data of number of cases filed, bumaba po ba?
We'll submit the data, but the number of cases went down.
But at least we appreciate the effort. I mean, they're using their imagination on how to lessen disputes. Ano bang aging ng kaso natin, sir, sa CIAP?
Mabilis naman, pero yung minsan ang pinakamatagal 1 year. Maabot ng 1 year. Yun na yung pinakamatagal.
1 year decided na at the level of the CIAP. Unfortunately, execution depends on the pendency sa appeal. CIAP, marami pa yata levels of appeal ito, no? So, CIAP decisions are brought to CA. Then
CA, that's correct.
CAST pa. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. So, gamitan natin ang imagination natin doon. Kasi nga tayo, we resorted to arbitration to shorten the periods to resolve disputes. Unfortunately, parang parehas na, parang nanggaling lang din sa RTC, Mr. President. But because of that, so is there anything which CIAP has thought of on how to shorten the entire process? Entire pati appeal?
Well, currently, the CIAP is working on online arbitration to make it more accessible.
Online arbitration.
Yes.
How about execution pending appeal?
May problema po sa execution dahil kulang po sa sheriff. So that's a constraint for the execution of the...
Hindi, pero yung...
Yeah, and but there is a pending request to the DBM for additional plantilla for...
Sheriff. You have your own sheriff pala. You cannot seek the assistance of the court.
Designated.
Designated sheriffs.
Yes.
Hindi, can you tell us more about this execution, paano? How does this, di ba ang sheriff nasa court? Ano bang sheriff? Paano sheriff? Paano work ang sheriff? Bisa din sila sheriff? Execute their... Ano ba sistema ng you go to the RTC, patulong ka sa sheriff, to execute sila, yun, bali? The party. The winning party. Hindi, tinatanong ko execution na siya decisions kasi baliwala rin. Arbitration pa, ang tagal-tagal.
So before the court, you still sheriff. And dati po kasi yung shares galing po sa court. Now, it's designated by the CIAP. So,
designated part of your plantilla. Oh,
yes.
So yun, I mean, okay. So how many are your sheriffs ngayon?
2 for the whole...
2. Okay. So, given reality, given your workload, anong sa tingin nyo ideal number of sheriffs sa CIAP?
How many do you need? Well, there's an additional 4, but ideally 8 to 10.
So 4 na yung pending approval siguro sa DBM, and then you don't need the law to be amended, no? Do you need the law?
No. It's
so
not
we just follow the process. You have it approved ng DBM, and then we fund it. Okay.
Yes.
We are here to help the CIAP kasi nga yun yung yung simple understanding ko nga sa mga alternative modes of dispute settlement or resolution instead the court process na may trial, so di ba, mediation, conciliation, arbitration, sana to shorten, pero I do not know kung nararamdaman nila. Is there a study na nararamdaman ng players or stakeholders in the construction industry that nagbe-benefit sila sa shortened process of resolving disputes?
Yes, it helps, but unfortunately, it's the execution where there's always there's problems. So minsan hindi rin sila nababayaran kaagad. So it's really with the execution that's where the issues lie.
Sige. Sana may study po if you can share it with us para tingnan namin how we can help you.
Unfortunately, there's no study as of now.
Feedback lang yan, parang...
Yes.
Sige po, kasi sometimes the law does not need to be amended, pero sometimes sa budget siguro makatulong. Sige po, thank you to the construction industry, ano ba yung E nila doon? Authority of the Philippines, Mr. President. Now, sa DTI po siguro, we studied the COA report. Ano na lang po yun, just address the COA report. And then I hope, because next year, we will compare next year's COA report with the previous one. Sana, kung anong pwedeng maalis doon, resolve na po ninyo, Mr. President. Para hindi na... Yes, Mr. Sponsor, you want to say something?
Yes. Some of the COA findings regarding the PPE, the physical, the PPE accounts that have, they're currently in the process of reconciling them. Of course, there's certain assets that over the years were not liquidated properly. So now they're just catching up, but these are in process, so they will be able to address these findings of the COA at the soonest possible time.
The department has no CIF, confidential or intelligence fund. Wala.
No, there's no
That
CIF.
shortens our interpellation by 1 hour, Mr. President.
Buti naman.
Okay. Alam nyo, the DTI, si DA, sinisingil namin sa mga kilos nila under the PRICE Act, sa anti-smuggling. Ang PRICE Act also is, I think, also partially implemented by the DTI. Okay, can you report to us? How have you been enforcing the PRICE Act? Meron din ba tayong achievements o track record na pwede worthy of reporting to the people? What are we suppressing sa PRICE Act? Price manipulation, hoarding, profiteering, cartel. Tama po ba? Does the DTI agree na lahat yun? Pagka non-agree,
Non-agree,
sa
but
inyo.
these are
Sa inyo,
yes,
Yes,
correct, that is
sige.
correct. These are manufactured goods. So as of date, the DTI has conducted price and supply monitoring of basic necessities, price commodities, on 735 supermarkets and grocery stores in the NCR, which are major distribution channels of goods, and the FTEB, the Fair Trade Enforcement Bureau, monitors a total of 915 supermarkets and groceries as its universe. And as of this time, according in the DTI witness and certified PNP NBI enforcement operations on anti-profiteering and anti-hoarding, the count of the number of operations is 14. The sum of number arrested is 30. And the sum of the estimated value of confiscation is 35.581 million. In the PNP, the count of number of operations is 29. The sum of the number arrested, 52, and the sum of estimated value of confiscation is 69.057549 million. So these are some of the statistics.
Number of cases filed?
Number of operations and number of arrested and the value of the goods
Yes, but that's why I'm asking, number of cases filed for violation of the PRICE Act. Kasi ganun yun eh.
Yes, yes.
And then ang next question ko actually is number of convictions.
The numbers of cases filed. We can submit the number of cases filed and the number of convictions.
Don't be ashamed kung zero, sabihin na po natin. Kasi, ganun.
Okay. Here, cases filed in for the anti-hoarding, there was 1. For the Price Act, there was 8. For price freeze, there was 5. Price tag, there was 6. And profiteering, there's 6.
Number of convictions?
The number of convictions. That is not
No
here
data.
yet. No data.
No data available. Okay, hindi zero, basta no data available. Huh?
Yes. Do you have the numbers? Can we be allowed to submit the numbers as they're trying to get it now?
Yeah, I'm sure it's lesser than the number of cases filed.
definitely,
Okay, so, what we're establishing here is the DTI is enforcing the PRICE Act. Okay,
Yes.
importante para on their toes lahat. Alam nila nga dyan ang DTI to monitor. Okay?
Yes.
Oo nga. Pare. Hindi popular. Hindi popular. Hindi popular yun.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yes. There's some statistics here. The under the Price Act, the 4 under litigation, 4 are final and executory. For price freeze, 3 are closed, 1 is final and executory. And those ones that are final are wins on our part. Nanalo naman tayo sa kaso.
Sige. Yes. Ayaw naman natin din magpakulong lang kaliwat kanan. Basta importante, there is a law, follow the law. If the law is too strict, sabihan kami because para kami mag-adjust, etc.
Yes.
Okay po. Okay, so congratulations na to the DTI, yung Creatives the Industry Development Council lang natin, kumusta na lang. Submit na lang a written report. I know, alam ko bago pa yan. So, just submit to us a report. Binigyan ba ng funding ang ating pong Creatives Development Industry Council for their PAPs.
Yes, for the Malikhain.
Malikhain Pinoy.
Yes. Requested for 600, and what was approved in NEP was 50, and the HOR was able to add 150. So 200. 200.
This year yata, magkano ba nabigay namin sa inyo this year?
This year, 360.
360. Sige. Sige po. And now we now move on to the Small Business Corporation, Mr. President. Andito ba ang Small Business Corporation? We have Mr. Bastillo. Tama? Is that correct? Tama? President? Okay. Correct. During the Bayanihan 2, under Bayanihan 2, we allocated 10 billion pesos precisely para pantulong yun, di ba? Sa mga naapektuhan ng COVID, mga micro and small businesses. And then
Yes, 8 billion po na 8 billion was downloaded.
Kasi 2 billion, sabi nyo, tourism. Yun ba yun?
Dati yung 2 billion. So, pinuno lang yung capital na 10 billion.
Okay.
With 8, yeah.
Okay, so ganun na. So may 2 billion na kayo, then dinagdagan ng 10 billion. 8 billion. Para ang total. Ang total natin is 10 billion. Let's call them loanable funds. Ano ba? We can call them that, no? Loanable funds.
Yeah, total capital.
Capital. Which you can loan out. Lend out. Okay.
That's correct, yes. It can be
Okay, ang sabi daw na state auditors natin, we did not maximize the lending of this 10 billion pesos to the micro and small businesses who were applying.
I think that data is outdated right now. The loans have been fully utilized or fully loaned out.
Ngayon, 10 billion na po ang out dyan? Naka-out na po?
Yes, naka-out po yung 10 billion.
It's good. Okay. So what's our, anong tawag mo doon, our repayment rate, Mr. President?
Repayment. Overall, the repayment is 75 to 77%.
Okay, when I was chairing the committee, nung mga 1 to 1.5 billion pa lang yung amount na yan, our repayment was, sabi niyo sa akin, mga 97-98%. So
yes, that's correct.
So habang lumaki, bumababa ngayon yung repayment rate po natin. So
due to the COVID, the effects of the COVID, that's why it went down. Economic hardship.
So are there ways of
there's because of the COVID, they were given a grace period. So that's why it went down.
When are we expecting the grace period to expire, Mr. President?
Well, it just expired, and we are currently collecting.
Sige, just report to us naman the repayment rate na, Mr. President.
Yeah, yes, Mr. President.
Iba po ito sa ito bang 10 billion itong 10 billion, that is already the P3 program?
That's 10 billion is their corporate equity.
Hindi, kaya nga, when we lend this out, ilan ba yung lending programs na being implemented by the Small Business Corporation?
There's only two, the corporate and the P3 funds.
The P3. You corporate, when you say microfinancing and loan, meron bang program na ganun?
Yes, that's correct.
That's separate from the P3.
Yes, that's separate from the P3.
If we add the two amounts, that should not be more than 10 billion. Ganun pa ba?
How much is it? The two funds, the total is 18 billion.
The two funds total 18 billion. Oh, okay. So, P3 is how much?
About 8. Because 10 billion is the corporate. So 8 is the P3.
What's the difference between the two, Mr. President?
P3 is intended to be a subsidy fund for micro enterprises. while
P3 are
subsidy
grants?
fund.
Grants sila? Subsidy? Grants? We're not expecting to collect
There's still
them.
loans. There's still loans.
The rates are much concessionary compared to the...
They're much lower. They're much lower.
What's the rates sa P3 fund?
From 2% to 8%.
2% to 8% per annum.
Correction, 2 to 12% per annum.
2 to 12% per annum.
Per annum.
Maganda.
Yeah.
Kasi, I was the impression that it was more than that, no? So that's the P3. That's the
P3.
The concessional loans. How about dun sa isa? The other one that we're talking about, itong ating bayanihan loans.
The other one is 10. The corporate is 10 to 12% per annum.
10 to 12.
10 to 12.
So the other one is corporate, ano yan, mga micro and small and
MSMEs,
medium corporations and co-ops, tama ba? Pati co-ops?
Yes, co-op.
While the other one, the P3, individuals.
A lot of co-ops also for P3. A lot of co-ops also for.
Hindi, ano yung program ninyo where an individual can avail of a loan? Ano ito? Hindi ko pa naintindihan ito sa DTI.
What about the corporate?
Basically, also you finance.
No.
Corporate is more heavy on the retail, while the P3 is most of it is channeled through cooperatives and microfinance institutions so that they can reach more individuals.
Siguro we have different repayment rates naman po doon. So can you give the individual repayment rates ng dalawa? Maganda naman ito.
For the P3 funds, it's a 85% repayment rate. So,
and then the other one, yung 70...
Yes.
Okay.
Slower.
So I think the figure I gave you before was sa P3 yata yun, yung high 90%. So bumaba. So what happened? How do we explain that? Bumaba ang ating repayment rate.
The co-ops and MFIs repay very well. In fact, they go 96%. Yeah, they go as high as 96%. So when you channel it through them, it's a very high repayment rate.
So right now, there are no more loanable funds sa SBC, out lahat.
Yes, well, no, because it's constantly moving since there's also collection. So they deploy it. They have to redeploy it again.
New borrowers,
yes,
new borrowers or beneficiaries.
Either new or repeat.
Yun na nga,
They're always recycling their capital.
Kung repeat kasi is parehas lang. So we are not expanding the number of people or entities who are feeling the benefit of the small business corporations. At any rate, kunyari itong ating subsidy sa kanila ngayon would be for next year 1.5 billion. So ano pong gamit nito? Should it go to the existing or to new borrowers? So dinoble pala na yun. So,
So the 1.5 will be utilized for the P3. There's still the P3.
P3. Yes.
There's still a significant gap, financing gap for the P3. So that will be used to expand it further, the reach.
Yes. By now involving new parties, new borrowers. Dito po.
Yes, that's correct.
Just one last observation. Ito pa lang inyong committee report namin sa inyo na 1.5 billion is double your 2023 GAA of 750 million. Tama? Tama ba?
Well, it was initially 1.5, and then in the GAA it was brought down to 750.
Yes, itong gaan itong year na to. Asa, yan nga, ang final
So 750. So the final now, yes, that's correct.
yes, ang
1.5.
nabigay sa iyo sa 2023 750 million.
750, yes.
Ang balak ibigay ng Kongreso sa inyo ngayon sa 2024 is 1.5 billion.
Yes.
Dumoble. Okay,
Yes.
so kaya nga that means yung tiwala ng Kongreso nandyan sa inyong ahensya, Mr. President.
Yes,
Okay.
that's what.
So keep up the good work, and I hope yung mga metrics natin, will improve, no? Ayaw natin na ang ending ng inyong mga loan programs or assistance programs would follow some of the old programs noon na ang repayment rate ay close to zero, wala na, tapos condonation na yung pinag-uusapan natin. Sana hindi po ganun.
Yes, Your Honor.
Because nakakatakot yung from the figures give you, ang trend pababa eh. So, just use your imagination, paano po natin mapabalik po sa dati.
Yes, Your Honor.
Especially now, na sinasabi natin, we're back to normal na eh.
Yes.
Maybe coming from the pandemic, but we're no longer in the time of the pandemic. So
Yes,
I
Honor.
hope.
We're confident that because of the pandemic it went down, but definitely it should be on an upward trend.
So we wish the Small Business Corporation all the best, no? But we'll keep on monitoring. And there's a way to measure performance naman eh. So I will follow the advice of the more knowledgeable sponsor on financial matters, Mr. President, on how to measure corporate performance, especially of this kind of a corporation na nasa finance, nasa lending money or extending financial assistance. So that's all, Mr. President. Madam President, thank you to the DTI family. We wish you all the best, and thank you, Mr. Sponsor, for your patience.
Thank you very much. Any more interpellators? Majority Leader. Thank you, Senator Pimentel.
Tatanong ako na lang. Madam President, I will no longer ask further questions. I would just like to ask the department to give us a status report on the IRR of our pet bill that we passed recently, the Trabaho para sa Bayan law. And we know very well that DTI is in charge mainly in ensuring that there will be jobs available, jobs that will be generated by our government offices, so that we will no longer force our people to go abroad and look for greener pastures, Madam President. With that, Madam President.
Before that, thank you, Majority Leader, for bringing that. As always, I will not ask any questions, and we thank the good sponsor for shepherding this bill. I wanted to express my full support to one of my favorite agencies, because one of the perhaps most important laws in my younger years as senator is implemented by this department, which is the Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprises. And I'm so happy to also support the other measures of my younger colleagues, like the Tatak Pinoy of Senator Angara and the OTOP law as well of the good sponsor, which we filed OTOP 20 years ago, and finally it was enacted into law. But also, I would have wanted to ask this question, but perhaps just submit to our office. I would like to know, what are the international trade fairs that are supported under GAA 2023, the present year, and GAA 2024, if we support it at all, including, for example, Ambiente, which CITEM is supposed to support and have physical presence of our booths in DTI, in Ambiente. And there are many other trade fairs in the construction industry and renewable energy, for which DTI and CITEM and other attached agencies are the lead. I will no longer ask the sponsor to provide the answers now, but perhaps just a list where we are represented, that we have participated on with small booths, or maybe just a delegation but no booths, so that we are able to really provide support for all regional and global international events, so that we are really on the global stage. Also, second, our accommodation of all the requests of the sectors who were opposed to the concurrence in the ratification of RCEP, the Regional Cooperation Economic Partnership Agreement. We know that both the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Trade and Industry are involved here in meeting the objectives of the market. However, there are concerns, as I mentioned during our RCEP briefings and interpellations, of certain sectors which are valid. So I would like to know an update. Is ASEC Jepti here? Is it still with DTI? Yes. I would like to know updates regarding RCEP. Because of our budget season, I'm not able to hold another hearing on RCEP, but perhaps the latest update, DTI and DA, but because DA defers to DTI for the updates on RCEP. So the international trade fairs and the RCEP updates. And I thank the good sponsor, Senator Villar, in our shared advocacy for the micro, small, and medium enterprises. Thank you, DTI family. We're here to support you.
Thank you, Your Honor. We will submit your request. Thank you.
I hope my manifestation and the request will not be ignored, Mr. President, Madam President.
Yes,
No, it will
I'm
not.
sure that
We will comply, Your Honor.
You are not just committing to the Senate President Pro Tem.
Of course, yours as well, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleague. Because the gentleman beside me is taunting me to repeat my manifestation, Madam President, so they will not forget. Madam President, no member wishes to interpellate or ask further questions. I now move that we close the period of interpellations and debate and consider the budget of the Department of Trade and Industry, Office of the Secretary, Board of Investments, Construction Industry Authority of the Philippines, and Small Business Corporation to be deemed submitted for the body's consideration. I so move, Madam President.
So we deem the budget submitted. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. May I ask for a minute suspension?
Session suspended.
The budget of the Department of Science and Technology, Office of the Secretary, Advanced Science and Technology Institute, Food and Nutrition Research Institute, Forest Products Research and Development Institute, Industrial Technology Development Institute, Metals Industry Research and Development Center, National Academy of Science and Technology, National Research Council of the Philippines, Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration, Philippine Council for Agriculture, Aquatic and Natural Resources Research and Development, Philippine Council for Health Research and Development, Philippine Council for Industry and Energy and Emerging Technology Research and Development, Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, Philippine Nuclear Research Institute, Philippine Science High School, Philippine Textile Research Institute, Science Education Institute, Science and Technology Information Institute, Technology Application and Promotion Institute, and Philippine Space Agency, and acknowledge the presence of its officials present here today. We have with us our good friend, Secretary Renato Silidum Jr., and from the Philippine Space Agency, we have Director General Dr. Joel Joseph Marciano Jr. Madam President, may we now move to recognize the distinguished sponsor of the measure, no other than our Deputy Majority Leader. Hindi pala. Mali na.
Saan?
Sorry, Madam President. The distinguished gentleman from Cavite, our Justice and Blue Ribbon Chair of the Senate Committee on Justice and Blue Ribbon, no other than Senator Francis Tol Tolentino. And to interpellate our distinguished Minority Leader, Senator Coco Pimentel. I so move, Madam President.
Thank you. We welcome the DOST family, Secretary Solidum, and all the agencies. Very interesting and very relevant and timely. And of course, we take note that their services are needed because of the 7.2 quake, unfortunately, in Mindanao, in Sarangani. But we recognize Senator Pimentel to interpolate Senator Tolentino.
And Madam
the
President,
sponsor
let
of
me
the
also
measure.
point out that we are also deliberating on the budget of Philippine Space Agency.
The Philippine
which is a
Space
different,
Agency.
yes,
Yes.
Madam President, thank you.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Majority Leader. Just to reiterate what the presiding officer just mentioned a while ago, at exactly 4:14 p.m. today, a grade 8 earthquake, 6.8, downgraded from 7.2, was recorded within the area of Sarangani, Davao Occidental, South Cotabato, General Santos, Tacurong, Sultan Kudarat, Davao del Sur, Davao Occidental, Zamboanga Peninsula, among others, Mr. President, to highlight the importance and relevance of the agency department under consideration tonight, Mr. President, from a NEP and GOB proposals, from the NEP and GOB proposals, the committee proposed budget from the OST is 26,731,382,000, and to highlight the proposed budget of the DOST and its attached agency, which is already higher than the 2023 GAA, several other programs of the DOST from the committee report would contribute to the attainment of this the administration's priority trust, which are still in need of budgetary support. Thus, the proposal coming from this committee. In August 2023, Mr. President, the Global Finance 2023 ranking listed South Korea, United States, Taiwan, Denmark, Switzerland, Israel, Finland, Netherlands, Sweden, and Norway as the 10 most technologically advanced countries in the world. Incidentally, I was not able to search for the name of our country. These most technologically advanced countries are among the richest in the world, thus indirectly highlighting the connection between progress and science and technology. And just a few hours ago, Mr. President, today, while the President is attending the APEC meeting, an agreement was signed with Orbitz Technology to highlight the need to have Wi-Fi technology in our far-flung rural areas. Mr. President, the budget would be distributed as follows. The OST, Office of the Secretary, 6,858,709. ASTI, or the Advanced Science Technology Institute, 389,047,000. Food and Nutrition Research Institute, FNRI, 552,796. Forest Products Research and Development Institute, FPRDI, 294,989,000. Industrial Technology Development Institute, ITDI, 461,605,000. Metals Industry Research and Development Center, 299,860,000. Philippine Nuclear Institute, PNRI, 1,055,215. Philippine Textile Research Institute, TRI, 254,270,000. Philippine Council for Agriculture, Aquatic and Natural Resources Research and Development, PCARD, 1,564,879. Philippine Council for Health Research and Development, PSHERD, 825,464,000. Philippine Council for Industry, Energy and Emerging Technology Research and Development, PSHERD, 922,017,000. Philippine Atmospheric Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration, 1,640,812,000. 1,640,812,000. Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, PHIVOLCS, 809,947,000. Philippine Science High School System, PSHSS, 2,683,856,000. Science Education Institute, SEI, 7,332,332 32,113,000. Science and Technology Information Institute, STII, 135,350,000. Technology Application Promotion Institute, TAPI, 265,341,000. National Academy of Science and Technology, NAST, 160,161,000. The National Research Council of the Philippines, NCRP, 224,791,000, plus the agency mentioned a while ago, the Philippine Space Agency, 790, 1,750,000. Thank you for correcting me, Minority Leader. 1,750,455,000, and the Philippine Postal Corporation. Philippine Postal.
70
Philippine Postal. Can I have it? Philippine Postal Corporation, which is 70 million. And to manifest, Mr. President, the committee chair just without objection, the committee just adopted the budget of the plenary just adopted the budget of Commission Filipino Overseas. With that, Mr. President, we are ready to. But going back to the ranking, Mr.
The DSWD using research and recommendation
or assessing or coming up with a review of its organizational structure and the functions of each of its attached agencies, whether or not there are, Your Honors, possible overlaps between their functions and those of other agencies. The three of us here, Senator Angara, Senator Pimentel, are talking about some perhaps, and we are not sure about it, but somehow we are asking this question, Mr. President. Example, the Philippine Council for Health Research and Development under DOST, its mandate is to formulate policies, plans, programs, projects, and strategies for health science and technology development. Now you have Health Policy Development and Planning Bureau of DOH, Mr. President. And this particular bureau advises and enables health policy makers and program managers in the development and implementation of evidence-based policies and plans towards a productive, equitable, resilient, people-centered health systems to achieve universal health care. I can go on and on, Mr. President, and because of lack of time, let me just give you another two, Mr. President. DOST has the Food and Nutrition Research Institute. This particular bureau undertakes researches that defines the citizenry's nutritional status and to develop and recommend policy options, strategies, programs, and projects for implementation by appropriate agencies. Now, Mr. President, the Department of Health has National Nutrition Council. And it is the country's highest policy-making and coordinating body on nutrition as mandated by law. Last but not the least, Mr. President, meron pong Philippine Council for Industry, Energy, and Emerging Technology Research and Development, or PSERD of DOST. Ang ginagawa po nito, it formulates policies, plans, programs, implements strategies, etc., and emerge in the industry, energy, and emerging technology sectors. Meron din naman po ang Department of Energy. Meron po silang Energy Research and Testing Laboratory Services. And this is for the formulation of policies in support of exploration and development of indigenous energy resources and the promotion of energy efficiency. Mr. President, as much as I wanted to stop talking about all these agencies and government bureaus seemingly doing the same thing, but let me give another two, Mr. President. Philippine Council for Agriculture, Aquatic and Natural Resources Research and Development, PICARD naman po ng DOST. Ang mandate naman po nila is to formulate policies, plans, programs, projects, and strategies for science and technology development in agriculture, aquatic, natural resources. Ngayon ho, meron naman ang Department of Agriculture na National Fishery Research and Development Institute and the Philippine Council for Agriculture and Fisheries, which are both engaged in agriculture and fisheries research. Meron din pong Philippine Textile Research Institute. They conduct research and development for textile industry sector. Meron din po ang DA. Meron naman silang Philippine Fiber Industry Development Authority, which also conducts research on the fiber industry. Nagiging biro na po every time we talk about different departments doing the same thing and somehow confusing legislators, not only in this August chamber, but even in the House of Representatives. Parang yung DOST yung pinakamalaki, Mr. President, laging napag-uusapan. Kasi parang ang DOST, may DA, may DOH, may TESDA, etc. So, I just wanted to put that on record and perhaps ask our distinguished sponsor if again, the department is actually conducting review, assessment of its organizational structure, functions of its attached agencies. Yun nga pong DTI, sinasabi nila, marami daw sa ginagawa nila, ginagawa na rin daw ng DOST. Hindi ko alam kung sino yung nauna, sino yung gumagaya sa isa. So, just to put on record, Mr. President, and para makakuha tayo ng mas magandang idea kung paano natin matutulungan ang bawat ahensya ng pamahalaan na hindi lahat the same yung ginagawang program, no? At the same yung ginagawa sa mga komunidad, nagte-train pareho, nag-develop ng parehong industriya and stuff like that, Mr. President. So, may we ask the sponsor to respond in this particular issue, Mr. President?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think you're correct. The good secretary beside me is in agreement that there might be some overlapping functions, Mr. President, coming from Executive Order number 128, which is circa 1987, which enumerated the agencies mentioned by the majority leader. For instance, the attached agencies, National Academy of Science and Technology, Philippine Science High School, Technology Application and Promotion Institute. These were all enumerated under the law, which is a law. Executive Order 128 is a law because that was promulgated under the Freedom Constitution. And all of this were, while subsumed by some of the functions were adopted by other newly created departments or agencies, were maintained by the original National Science and Technology Authority. You're correct, Mr. President. It is as if there will be overlapping functions, but this is what the Secretary is saying, that the new ones adopted the functions, the earlier functions of the National Science and Technology. So we're not talking of your good analogy, Mr. President. How can you have two ball handlers with one ball in a Clippers team that would perhaps result in an overlap of ball distribution?
May we know if the team of the gentleman from Tagaytay, the Los Angeles Clippers, won after the trade?
No, not yet. No chemistry yet.
Exactly because of that analogy, yes. Mr. President.
I was leading you into that engagement, Mr. President. So I totally agree that perhaps
Perhaps, Mr. President, distinguished colleague, just to expedite and I don't want to belabor the time of everyone here. I think the bottom line is what the President just told us during the last LEDAC meeting attended by our colleagues here. And the President himself tasked the Senate, including this representation and the Senate President Zubiri, to look into this and prioritize right sizing. I believe, Mr. President, right sizing is not necessarily downsizing. And I have been very vocal about it, that there is indeed a need to right size government bureaus, agencies, and departments. In fact, the BM already stated that right sizing is designed to arrive at the appropriate structure and size of government agencies that will be responsive in the delivery of public goods and services in an effective and efficient manner at the right time and at the right cost. So, Mr. President, if we can ask the Secretary to help us look into this, kung may nakikita rin po siyang solusyon, saan dapat ito ba yung expertise ng DOST para mas ma-focus natin yung pong pinaka expertise ng departamentong ito, doon sila mag-focus, no? And kung meron mang ibang ahensya o departamento na nakikisawsaw doon sa expertise po ninyo, dapat we should do something to stop them from pursuing that path that is not their expertise, Mr. President.
We agree, Mr. President, but the reason given by the good secretary here is that they're the ones in charge of research and development, and the other government entities are supposed to coordinate with them. What is happening right now, Mr. President, is that their outputs are being utilized by other government agencies to justify perhaps their own existence, Mr. President. So, for the record, Mr. President, there is a pending bill in the other chamber. This is House Bill 7240, which is the act right sizing the national government. It has already been approved on third reading by the lower house, and it's pending in our chamber, Mr. President. But I totally agree with the observation given by the good majority leader, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And to crystallize the statements made by our good sponsor, in this particular budget hearing, we were just informed by our resource persons from the Department of Science and Technology that they already have that research, that capability of increasing our production at least by 80%, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
For rice, for instance, for preservation of our fruits and the products, Mr. President. And yet, the Department of Agriculture is not even implementing or not even listening to what they are saying. I mean, the fact that this particular agency, department, is focused on doing research, Mr. President. So what's the point, Mr. President? What's the point of having this, and the government agencies will not even conduct or listen to what they are doing? Just as we were talking a while ago of PSA, the Department of Agriculture is no longer trusting their data. So what's the point of having that institution?
So, Mr. President, I agree with you. I agree with you that there are some outputs, studies produced by the DOST family not being utilized by the other government agencies. It's not a problem of lack of scientific research and data coming from the DOST, but the seemingly lack of utilization on the part of other government agencies. So perhaps the rationalization idea could generate a fusion of government outputs that would lead to a more cohesive and efficient bureaucracy, Mr. President. Palagay ko, yung pagkukumpas nito, yung po yung Yung po yung kulang-kulang. And if we can extend it further, there should perhaps be a research and development office per LGU. If you will agree.
Thank you.
Per LGU.
Thank you, Mr. President. And perhaps the good sponsor can ask the DOST to give us here in the Senate of this equipment, research, studies that is worth implementing in the different agencies and departments of the government, particularly Mr. President, with that of the Department of Agriculture. And let me also state into the records that this representation was asked by the President himself, and the Senate President can attest to this, to champion the passage of right-sizing bill, Mr. President. I did not agree immediately because I wanted to have more research, Mr. President. In fact, we commissioned a research organization, if I'm not mistaken, from Ateneo de Manila University. PIDS is also doing or has conducted a research on this. And after the budget deliberation, we will be filing this particular bill in the Senate. And we would be needing the cooperation and the wisdom of the different agencies, especially the Department of Science and Technology. Let me go, Mr. President, to another topic that is very close to my heart, which is the flood forecasting and the warning system, Mr. President. May we know the role of PagAsa in flood management? What is your, perhaps my question would be, your standard operating procedure if there is continuous rain which may result in flooding?
Mr. President,
They provide the monitoring and the warning.
they are more into the side of monitoring and giving the appropriate warning, early warnings to our kababayans, Mr. President.
And then you coordinate with other agencies, is that correct? Including NIA, for example, the National Irrigation Authority na nagmamanage po nung dams. Tama po ba yun?
You're correct, Mr. President.
MWSS, various Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council, perhaps, regarding early warning systems. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. President.
May we know, Mr. President, as we go along, no? Do we have a mechanism to evaluate and perhaps find out if we are performing better every year, Mr. President? Is there a such thing like that in the PagAsa? Na-improve ba yung forecasting, yung warning program, yung sistema ng communication? Kasi based on our experience, Mr. President, in our province, nitong nakaraang July, Mr. President, month of July, we experienced severe flooding. And it appears there was really lack of coordination among the agencies regarding flood forecasting and warning system. And that's why a lot of our kababayan, especially those living in the low-lying areas, were surprised when flood waters came. Kaya gusto ko malaman sana kung effective ba, na monitor ba natin, nakikita ba natin yung performance natin. Yun pong flood forecasting and warning systems, itong FFWS, which was first piloted in the Pampanga River Basin in 1973. 1973 pa po ito. Yung flood forecasting and warning system for dam operation project, conceived in April 1983 and was implemented in stages and fully completed in 1992. So medyo tinitingnan ko po yung mga dates. Parang matanda pa ho sa akin tong isa. At ito ba, ginagamit pa rin po ba natin? Kasi kung ganito ho at hindi pa rin makabagong teknolohiya yung ginagamit natin, kawawa na gusto talaga yung mga nagsasuffer tuwing bumabaha po.
Yeah, Mr. President, our records will show that our flood forecasting and warning systems were established years ago and strategically located in Pampanga, Agno, Bicol, Cagayan, Pasig, Marikina, Libuganon, Cagayan de Oro, Panay, among others, including Davao and Buayan, Malunggon. So additional 4 FFWS were established in Aklan from January 2022 to June 2023, Mindanao, Agusan, and Abulog. So ngayon po, 17 flood forecasting warning systems meron tayo. Pag may nangyayari pong, if there is an event that would be called a weather disturbance, they continuously validate the results aside from their monitoring to improve their systems. But of course, Mr. President, there are disruptions that indeed cannot be validated in the face of public opinion, Mr. President, lalo-lalo na yung binabanggit nyo, narating ko rin po yung San Miguel nung lumubog, narating ko rin po yung General Tino sa Nueva Ecija nung bumaha, nung bagyong Karding. And
Ang point ko lang, Mr. President, distinguished colleague, is that do we have really good or working, effective warning systems? Kasi yung binanggit ko nga ako kanina, yung sa Pampanga River Basin, 1973 pa po yun eh. Napalitan naman po siguro na yun, no? And more effectively, and more importantly, I would say, we get to evaluate our systems if it is working. Just yesterday, Mr. President, I was told yung Bustos Dam nasira eh. Ang laki nung binaba ng tubig, ang laki na nag-suffer yung mga kababayan natin dun sa Bulacan. I know, hindi po dito yung Sania, pero again, hindi ko alam kung anong ginagawa ho nila doon. Tinanong ko ho kanina yung mga kaibigan natin doon, sabi tinitignan pa rin. So, sabi ko parang wala pa rin.
I totally agree, Mr. President, kasi yung Bustos kasi rubber dams.
Yes.
Ang nilagay doon, pag naarawan, nagbibitak-bitak po yun.
Exactly the information that I got, yung rubber something, yun yung nasira.
Yes. So, Mr. President, ang sinasabi po ng DOST, yung mitigation measures. The warning systems are in place, but the mitigation measures are connected with the population growth and density, the urban development in an area. These are beyond the turf of the DOST, the PagAsa. Yung kanila po warning eh, pero yung paglago ng komunidad na naapektuhan hindi na nila kontrolado. Of course, they can support.
But the coordination is there. We are on time. It's been logged na ganitong time na target natin. It's already communicated. The information was already conveyed.
Yes,
that's all I wanted to ask, because I wanted to make sure that our system is working, number one. Number two, part of the system, which is to ensure that this is being communicated properly, timely, most especially, Mr. President.
Mr. President, there is a protocol for this, and I've been confused ever since. They just give the information. There is a separate group controlling the release of waters. The dam operator, which is under the NIA, NPC, private corporation.
Yeah, I understand that, Mr. President. I would just wanted to make sure that on your end, you were able to tell them of the warnings, etc. You log it on time, and you check it every now and then to make sure that your performance is improving. Diba? Meron po. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. President. One last thing, Mr. President. I'm a living testimony of DOST's CEST project, especially ito pong Mobile Command and Control Vehicle with Triage Technology o yung MOCOV. In fact, Mr. President, we played a significant role last year for the for the for this particular MOCOV program in our beloved province in Bulacan. And then this year, we were also instrumental in coming up with another one in the great province of Aurora. And I just wanted to find out, Mr. President, is if we still have a program for this. Magkano ang budget for next year ng CES? Because this is under CES, right? The community empowerment. Is that correct? Under CES?
So 279
Yes.
a million 3,000, Mr. President.
270 naman. That's all over the country, no?
Yes,
Itong,
Mr. President.
CES. But particularly, yung MOCOV po, ang Region 3 lang po ba yung nag-ano nito? Yung MOCOV po na program, sa Region 3 lang po ba ito o other regions also are doing this?
We have one in 16.8 million, Mr. President, per MOCOB.
Per MOCOV. Ang question ko lang po is, ginagawa po ba to sa ibang rehiyon o sa Region 3 lang?
Yes, Mr. President. They
Meron din sa ibang rehiyon.
replicate that in other regions. Ano?
So, can I be more specific this time? How much is the budget for MOCOV alone? Because I think this is really a good program considering we are being visited by at least 20 typhoons a year. Tapos yung sa mga disaster risk management natin, malaking bagay po ito para maiwasan yung mga nagbibigay buwis buhay ng mga kababayan natin. Sa Bulacan, namatayan kami ng 5-6 na rescuers doon sa Bulacan nung nagkasagsagan ng baha. With this kasi malaking bagay na maprotektahan natin yung mga rescuers. May we know how much is the budget for MOCOV in the entire country? Kasi yung 300 million, almost 300 million plus next year, buong CES na ho yun eh.
I think the budget for this year is 72 million.
72 all over the region. So ang
all over the country.
Opo, ilang MOCOV lang po yun? 16 million? So mga 4-5 lang po yun? All over the country na?
For Mr. President.
4 lang po. So kung 4 lang po yun, sa Central Luzon kasi 2 na nung nakaraang 2 taon, yung sa 4 na yan, may mapupunta ba sa Central Luzon? Wala. Not this year. Kawawa naman kami ni Senator Angara. So that's why, Mr. President, I'm asking that question because in the inauguration or initial implementation of MOCOV, I attended the said event of the OST in, if I remember, at Clark Air Base 2 years ago, and I vividly remember what I mentioned to the DOST family in Region 3 that we should have more of this, at least 1 per province. So siguro, Mr. President, at the proper time, this representation would like to put into the records that 16 million lang isa. Siguro kung 2, 3, 4, kaya namin para sa aming rehiyon dun sa Region 3. At nandito naman yung chairperson ng Senate Committee on Finance para maging model yung aming rehiyon at ipakita sa ibang region na they should follow suit.
Including Region 4A, Mr. President.
Yung Region 4A, bahala na yung sponsor ng budget dito. But yung Region 3, pangarap po namin, lahat ng probinsya man lang, malagyan po nito dahil kesa laging tinatamaan ng bagyo, malaking tulong po ito. So, I am just putting that into the records and I just hope that the sponsor will support me.
Yes, definitely Aurora should have a MOCO.
I already gave one to Aurora this year, Your Honor.
They just turned over, I was informed. Yes.
So we will give now to Tarlac, Nueva Ecija,
Cavite,
Zambales, Region 3, Your Honor, Region 3. And Bataan, Mr. President. So, thank you, Mr. President. But if Cavite wants to have this a program, Mr. President, I will also support the gentleman from Cavite. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Reciprocity.
Thank you,
Majority
distinguished
Leader.
gentleman from Cavite, our dear colleague. Mr. President, no member wishes to interpret or ask further questions. I now move to close the period of interpellations and debate and consider the budget of the Department of Science and Technology, Office of the Secretary, Advanced Science and Technology Institute, Food and Nutrition Research Institute, Forest Products Research and Development Institute, Industrial Technology Development Institute, Metals Industry Research and Development Center, National Academy of Science and Technology, National Research Council of the Philippines, PagAsa, PCAA, NRRD, PCHRD, PCIEETRD, Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, Philippine Nuclear Research Institute, Philippine Science High School, Philippine Textile Research Institute, Science Education Institute, Science and Technology Information Institute, Technology Application and Promotion Institute, and the Philippine Space Agency to be deemed submitted for the body's consideration. I so move, Mr. President.
There is a motion of the Majority Floor Leader to close the period of interpellation and consider submitted the budget of the Department of Science and Technology and its attached agencies and the Philippine Space Agency. Is there any objection? There being none, the motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Basta kayo. Congratulations.
Mr. President. So that we can also tackle, Mr. President, the last but not the least agency, I move to consider the budget of Philippine Postal Corporation, led by Postmaster General and CEO Luis Carlos, who is here with us, and to sponsor the measure, Senator Tolentino. Maybe we can just hear from the good sponsor the budget for Philippine Postal Corporation.
The consideration of the budget of the Philippine Postal Corporation is now in order for today's interpellation. Senator Francis Tolentino and
Yes, Mr. President.
is recognized.
For fiscal year 2024, no budget was earmarked for PhilPos coming from the NEP and the NEP and GAB. Mr. President, the proposal coming from your good committee is that PhilPos should have a budget of 70 million pesos.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, no other member wishes to interpellate or ask any questions. I move that we close the period of interpellation and debate and consider the budget of Philippine Postal Corporation to be deemed submitted for the body's consideration. I so move, Mr. President.
There's a motion of the Majority Floor Leader to close the period of interpellation and consider submitted the budget of the Philippine Postal Corporation. Is there any objection? There being none, the motion is approved.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, this juncture, I move that we suspend the session until 10 o'clock in the morning, Monday, November 20, 2023. I so move, Mr. President.
Congratulations.
Is there any objection? There being none, the session is suspended until 10 o'clock in the morning, Monday, November 20, 2023.
Okay, so yung mga kaibigan, napanood natin yung ginawang budget deliberation ng Senate, tungkol doon sa mga government agencies na dapat talagang paglaanan ng budget or whatsoever. So pinapaliwanag nila isa-isa na dapat meron niyang ganito, yung mga ahensyang yan. So dapat talaga, meron ho talaga yan, di ba? So, Kasi pagka wala nga hong budget ang bawat sangay ng ahensya o ng gobyerno, paano hong tatakbo? Paano gagana? Paano makakapagserbisyo sa taong bayan? So, yun ang sinasabi natin. Kaya, dapat talagang bawat ahensya ng gobyerno ay meron pong pondo o lakalaang pondo, no? Halimbawa, katulad ng DTI, siyempre, sa mga bilihin yan. Tulad ng Department of Agriculture, di ba? So, marami tayong ahensya ng gobyerno na talaga naman dapat bigyan talaga ng o laanan ng pondo ng ating pamahalaan. Okay mga kaibigan, sa oras na alas 9:50 po ng gabi Philippine Standard Time ay magpapaalam po muna tayo pansamantala at muli tayo magbabalik bukas para sa ating Wednesday edition ng programang Tropa. Muli po, ako po yung naging kasama, kachokarang, kajaming, kakuya, kaate, Jose Lopez. Magandang gabi Pilipinas at mapayapang magdamag. Magandang gabi po.
Responsable ka ng gun owner? At mahaba ba ang iyong pasensya? At hindi ba initin ang iyong ulo? Alam mo rin ba ang batas hinggil sa pag-iingat ng baril o firearms? Kung hindi,
A responsible gun owner? Are you a responsible gun owner? Are you a responsible gun owner?
Are you a responsible gun owner?
Are you a responsible gun owner?
Are you a responsible gun owner? The PNP Civil Security Group would like to advise all firearms holders to renew their license to own and possess firearms and firearms registration within 6 months before its expiry date. Tumawag na at makipag-ugnayan.
Be a responsible gun owner.
One Gun Pilipinas ang sagot mga katropa at kaganos. Tayo ituturo sa inyo ng One Gun Pilipinas o OGP ang lahat ng legal na paraan at proseso upang ikaw ay maging isang responsableng gun owners. Ano pa hinihintay nyo mga kaganers? Sali na sa One Gun Pilipinas ngayon na!
Now,
Talakayin. Biggest destruction of dangerous drugs worth 1.
Rebisahin, opinyon, malawakin, aksyonan. Kasama si Rosel Lopez, ang inyong katropa sa pagbabalita. Dito lang sa Millennial Online TV. Tutok na mga katropa!
Hanap mo ba ay Unwind Ventures? Tara nang mamangha sa mga tanawin. Ano man ang iyong travel goals? Dadalhin namin kayo sa Unwind Ventures at saya. Dito lang sa Wow Biyahe. Kaya wow, di ba?
Abangan dito lang sa Millennial Online TV. Mga milenyo, pagod ka na ba galing sa trabaho? At gutom na sa maghabong pagtatrabaho? Pero wala kang pagkain sa bahay? Narito na ang sagot mga katropa, ang Superman of Lechon, napapawi sa inyong gutom at siguradong mapapa-analyze ka dahil sa tender juicy na jam mo pa at siguradong malinis at bagong katay buhat sa farm. Kaya super na sa lasa at pangmasa pa. Ano pa hinihintay niyo mga katropa? Takbo na sa Superman o Panteño Similuan at bumili na. Baka maabusan ka, katropa. Pinaigting, pinalakas ang bagong news online TV ng bagong milenyo. Millennial Online TV, ang katropa mo sa pagbabalita.
Hi, this is Hilary Gadon. Nananawagan ako sa ating mga katropa, no? At mga kaibigan, mga kababayan, na palaging tumutok sa Millennial Online TV. At yan ay pinangunahan at yan ay pinangangasiwaan ng aking kaibigan na si Rosel. At ang mga nanunood dyan ay hindi bobo!
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang magiliw, telas ng sinakalan, alam ng puso, sa titik ko'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, kuya ka ng magiting, sa mandulupin, di ka pasisingil, sa nagatak tutok sa simoy at sa langit mo bangaw, ay hinatang tula, tawid sa pagkayang minamahal. Ang isang lang matawad mo'y tagumpay na nag-iindig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pang ay di magdidinig. Luman ang araw ng walhagit pagsinta, huwag langit sa pinig mo. Ang inigaya na pagkay mga akin, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Sa lahat ng bumubuo ng Millennial Online TV at sa lahat po ng sumusuporta, maraming salamat po. Millennial Online TV is now signing off.